Kind of God is that?
Yo, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm just wondering where you get your morality from, right? Because I'm assuming you'd be an atheist.
Yeah, I believe that morality is subjective, so I would say that I get it from the empathy of the consequences of my actions.
Okay, so would you have any like objective way to prove that slavery is wrong, or you just like it's just like an opinion?
Yeah, I don't believe in objective moral truths.
So you're just like judging these opinions, I guess.
Yeah, like slavery is just subjectively wrong to me. There's no way for me to prove that it's objectively wrong, independent of mind or stance.
Well, how's that different than me making fun of someone who thinks tomatoes taste good?
Is that a moral thing? The way
Well,
tomatoes
no, but
taste?
it's just as subjective according to you.
Yeah, I don't believe in objective morals.
Yeah, I know. So it would be the same as saying a tomato tastes good or bad. It's just an opinion.
But that's not a moral opinion.
No, but I'm saying it's an opinion. There's no way to prove it wrong or right. It's just it's not real, right? So I'm just comparing it to be the same thing, really.
I don't see how. Like, having a slave is not the same thing as taste.
No, but
It's
seeing something to be morally good or bad, according to you, would be the same thing as tasting something and
no,
it being
no,
good or
no,
bad.
no. Because I'm talking about moral. To take like the way things taste don't have anything to do with morality.
No, but I'm saying they're both subjective things according to you, right?
Yeah, sure. I get. Yeah, I would say taste is subjective. Yeah, but I don't see how it's equivalent to like morality.
Because it's not provable, right? It's just you're just like saying, "Oh, look at this guy. He thinks that this is right," even though I can't prove him wrong.
Yeah, like as far as I can tell, there's no way for you to demonstrate that owning slaves is objectively good or wrong because objective would mean independent of mind or stance.
Yeah, I would just say just appeal to God, right?
But even God says that it's not objectively wrong.
What is objectively wrong? What do you mean?
I'm sorry, say it again.
He says what isn't objectively wrong.
Having slaves.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Slavery isn't inherently immoral.
Yeah, well, you can't say that it's inherently immoral because then you would be disagreeing with your God.
Yeah, well, I'm not a Christian, right? But I'm a Muslim, right? I still believe
Oh,
slavery is
yeah.
not inherently
This
immoral.
is for people who believe in the Holy Bible, not the Quran. I don't know why Muslims feel like they need to come in and like try to talk in like Christian spaces. Doesn't never made sense to me. Guys, make sure you guys are double tapping the screen. This is obviously for Christians since it clearly says Holy Bible. If you're a Muslim, I'm not really interested in talking to you. Yeah, but that guy was like, I don't even know what that guy was trying to argue, saying that the way a tomato tastes is comparable to moral opinions. I'm not really sure. Guys, everybody spam the shares too. Like click the little share button and hit copy link. Just hit share, copy link, share, copy link. Do it like 20 times for me so I can boost the shares up, everybody. And go ahead and send a guest request if you're a Christian or if you're a believer in the Holy Bible. Tap the screen, folks. Thank you. Appreciate that. I just kind of find it kind of funny that this supposed like God of love or loving God would say like, hey, when wearing mixed fabrics, absolutely not. You better, I'm telling you, don't do it. Do not wear mixed fabrics. Now, having slaves, on the other hand, I'll allow it. I'll let you do it. So it's okay. What kind of God is that? What kind of God is that? What's up, Days? Good to see you, Days. And if you guys are wondering what the fabric verse is, it's Leviticus 19. 19. You must obey my laws. You must not let your animals mate with animals of a different kind. You must not sow your field with two kinds of seed, and you must not wear clothing made from two kinds of material mixed together. You must not do those things. You must not wear clothing made from two kinds of material mixed together. That's a command from God to not wear mixed fabrics. But when it comes to the slavery subject, God's like, hey, I'll allow it. I'm not going to tell you can't do it, right? I'm not going to command you to do it, But I'm also not going to say don't do it. In fact, I'll give you very specific rules and regulations on instructing you how to practice slavery. I'll do that, but I'm not going to tell you don't do it. Thanks for the gift. Appreciate that. Make sure you guys are... Oh, thanks for spamming the shares, everybody. I appreciate that. And yeah, and make sure you guys are tapping the screen, please. How's everybody been doing today? I know it's kind of early in the day. Amen, Dave the Wave. Amen. Chocolate milk isn't depicted. What? Doing good. How about you? I'm doing good. I am good. Today's my last day off. I'm going back to work tomorrow night. So I'm just going to spend the day relaxing, maybe go live for a few hours, and then watch Monday Night Football. Good morning, little green wheels. Like, do you even know why he said that about mixed fabrics? What linen and wool, what linen and wool does to the human body? Do you even know what he said about the mixed fabrics? What linen and wool does to the human body? Do you know what slavery does to the human body? Do you know what slavery does to the human body? You know what beating your slave with a rod does to the human body? You atheists have an imaginary enemy. Yeah, it's true. Do you believe in God or no? I am not convinced that any God exists. I'm not convinced. I don't know what to do. What do you mean, aggro? You and Joel are both live at the same time. Oh, Joel's live? That's cool. I didn't even notice he was alive. Do you believe God exists but doesn't care? No, I'm not convinced that any gods exist. The book of Exodus and Philemon completely debunk slavery in the Bible. No, it does not. Exodus gives instructions on how to own slaves, female slaves. Exodus says you can sell your daughter as a slave and she's not to go free as the male slaves do. And also Exodus gives instructions on how to beat your slaves. You can come up here and talk about it, Mr. Dr. Man, if you want. Go ahead, Mr. Dr. Man. Come up here and we can talk about how Exodus does not debunk slavery. They tell us how to enslave according to Jebus. Yeah, there's nowhere in the Bible where God or Jesus speaks out explicitly against owning people as property. There's not a single verse in the Bible where it says, do not have slaves. Not even in the New Testament. Ephesians talks about how slaves should obey their masters the same way they'd obey Christ. The universe didn't just come out of nowhere. It's too complex for it to be a mistake. Yeah, I agree. I don't think the universe came out of nowhere. I agree with that. What's up, Hanji? The queen is here, Hanji. I'm watching your previous video on YouTube now. Thank you. I appreciate you checking out the YouTube. If you guys want to check out my YouTube, go subscribe. I want to hit 1,000 subscribers so bad. I'm at like 750 right now. How did the universe get created then? I don't think the universe was created. I think it's possible that the universe always existed. The same way that you would say that God has always existed, I would just say, well, I think the universe could have always existed. I don't think anybody thinks that something comes from nothing. I've watched them all twice. You've been slacking. Yeah, I took a break for like a month and a half, but I'm trying to get back into doing more lives again. I was just getting really burnt out on it. I love the God of the gaps. If there is a gap, God did it. Yeah. It's a fallacy. I don't understand how it could be, so therefore it must be God. We need a mental break from this stuff. Yeah, I definitely needed a break, Hanji. I had like no motivation or desire to go live. Thank you, JMR, for that bear. I really appreciate you. You're amazing too. Thank you. God is fake and you can prove it? Interesting. Do you believe religion is used to fearmonger? Yes, I do. Skits, I think you should be upset and chill at the same time. The videos get much funnier. What? I do try to... I'm trying to be more chill. But if there's any Christians in the chat who'd like to come up here and discuss why your God allows slaves but does not want you to wear mixed fabrics, explain that to me, because that just makes no sense to me. Why an all good, loving God would be like, hey, don't you fucking dare wear mixed fabrics. When it comes to having slaves, I'll allow it. You can do that. Clearly, one of those things is much worse. Here's a hint. It's the slavery. Slavery is okay, but not the mixed fabrics. Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. I don't get that. Thank you for the shares. Guys, everybody here, please spam the shares. Hit share, copy link. Share, copy link. Do that like 20 times. It's a little like share hack. It'll like hopefully boost the live stream out so we can get some guest requests in here. I love when Christians come up here and they're like, how could God support slavery when he freed the Israelites from slavery? Well, it's like, yeah, because the Israelites were God's chosen people. So after God sat on his ass for 400 years before he got around to sending Moses to free his chosen people from slavery, did he tell the Israelites, look, guys, remember when you guys were all slaves and you were praying to me, bitching about it? Well, don't do that now. You're now free. So remember when you didn't like being slaves? Now don't go and enslave people. That would make sense. But God didn't do that. He said, hey, guys, guess what, guys? Remember all that time when you were slaves and you were bitching and praying to me about being slaves? Well, guess what? Now you get to have slaves. How you like that? You see how that worked in that mysterious way? Hence the mysterious ways in which I work in? The fabric scripture is talking about not lying about the fabric you're selling. Let me read it and see if there's anything about lying in there. You must obey my laws. You must not let your animals mate with animals of a different kind. You must not sow your field with two kinds of seed. You must not wear clothing made from two kinds of material mixed together. Didn't mention anything about lying, so I think you just lied. That's a sin. You need to repent. You just lied about a scripture saying that it talked about lying, but it doesn't mention anything about lying in there. If anybody's lying, it's you. You had me at the two kinds of seed. You love sin? I don't know what it's like to sin. I've never sinned a day in my life. Do you believe Jesus existed, but he's not a God? Yeah, I think it's possible that there was this guy named Jesus who walked around and he was running his mouth claiming to be the Son of God and he got himself executed. But yeah, I think that's possible. But as far as him rising from the dead like a zombie after 3 days, nah, I don't believe that. Just another cult leader who wanted you to hate your family in order to be a follower of him. In Luke 14:26, he says, you must hate your children. You must hate your family. You must hate even your own life in order to be worthy of following me. So hate your children and come follow me. And also drink my blood and eat my flesh. Totally not a cult. Totally not a cult. Jesus was the Jim Jones 2,000 years ago. It is pretty disgusting, aggro. This is probably not a very good time to go live this early in the day on a Monday, but we'll see if we can get some guest requests in here. I am screen recording for YouTube, so everybody say hello to YouTube. And if you want to subscribe to my YouTube, click the link in my bio and It'll take you straight to my YouTube. Subscribe to it. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs. I'm at like 750 right now. Keep tapping the screen. Thank you, Hanji. We should go live together. Yeah, maybe I should hop over on Joel's live. What is Joel? What topic is Joel doing? Is he doing the dump the Bible? Thank you, Days. That is quite the compliment coming from you.
Hey, dude.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm alright. Hey, dude. I was just wondering, do you like ever like debate people from other religions or from other gods?
No, typically I just debate Christianity, people who believe in the Christian God.
But why only Christians?
Because that's the most popular religion in the country I live in.
That's the one that's kind of dying at the moment. Why don't you like jump on Islam when it's actually growing?
I don't know too much about those religions.
It's strange, bro, because there's a million of these Christian debates happening, but no one's really debating any of the other gods. What do you think that is?
I have no idea.
I mean, no one's debating whether Krishna is real or Zoroastrianism is real. Like, no one gives a shit.
Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe because it's just not as popular, I guess. Christianity is the most popular one, I guess. Are you a Christian?
Yes, I'm a Christian.
So what do you think about this? Like a God saying, don't wear mixed fabrics, but you're allowed to have slaves.
Yeah, I don't understand that, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't understand it either.
Yeah, I don't, like, I was an atheist my whole life. I used to debate Christians. I used to find pleasure in it, like digging through their worldviews, showing the holes in it. Mm-hmm. And then like, I would explain it like I had a vision from God when I was 19. And then I was like, oh shit, what do I do now? Because I believed in evolution, dinosaurs, Big Bang, and a part of me still like acknowledges that stuff happened. I'm not sure how it worked, but I also know that God is real. I don't know how to quantify those two positions.
When you say you know that God is real, are you saying that you literally know he's real, or you just have faith that he's real?
No, I know it. He showed himself to me.
So you don't so you have no faith?
No, I wouldn't say I have a belief, like I know he's real. Like almost like Carl Jung said, like the point of, like I would have to lie if I said I didn't think God was real.
So you don't think that God's real. You don't have faith that he's real. You know that he's real.
Yeah, I know he's real.
Okay, can you demonstrate that?
No, it's like trying to prove the hard way running Mario from inside the game. You're limited by the game.
But if you know it's true, then you should be able to give evidence that it's true. I would understand if you said, I have faith. There's no way for me to give evidence because I just have faith or I have a belief. But if you know something, then that means you should be able to give evidence.
Okay, let's say you and your brother are in a room, right? And your brother's a dodgy guy. And a day later, you realize that you lost $100 of yours is gone. You have no way of proving it was him, but you know it was him.
No, if I have no way of proving it was him, I don't know it was him.
Yeah, but you would know.
How? If I have no way of proving it, how would I know? I could believe that it was him.
Relationship. Okay, so is your contention that if you cannot prove something wholly, like let's say I cannot prove that my brother stole it, therefore
I don't know it.
Yeah, you won't know it, but like
all I could have is my suspicions. I could just have my suspicions and my beliefs, but it would not be knowledge.
Yeah. So if you think that, okay, so if someone can't prove that God exists, because it's kind of like an outside construct or outside thing, therefore God doesn't exist, or is it Or
No.
are you from the?
No, I'm saying I don't think you should be walking around saying that you know God is real when you can't give any evidence of it. You should just say you have faith that God is real or that you believe he's real. Because if you know something, now you're claiming knowledge. You're claiming positive knowledge of this God. And you would be able to give evidence that demonstrates that this God is real, or like a justified belief.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but that's like, are you in a relationship, for example?
I'm sorry?
Or are you in a relationship? Do you have
No,
like a significant?
no, I'm single.
Do you have family members like sisters
Yeah.
or brothers?
Yep.
Like if I told you your sister doesn't love you because you can't prove she does, would that make it true?
Well, my sister, I could have a justified belief that my sister loves me based on like behavior and the way she shows it and her telling me that she loves me. That would be a justified belief. But I guess I don't know. Maybe I would say that knowledge is a justified belief.
Yeah. No,
But I
see
could
that.
give evidence of that. I can demonstrate that.
Oh.
I could literally put you on a 3-way phone call with my sister, and she could say, "Yeah, I love my brother," and then that would be a
But how-
justified belief.
No, but she would just say it. She wouldn't. There would be no.
That's the
proof of it.
evidence. That's the evidence.
Yeah, but like I thought, verbal evidence or verbal testimony is not enough.
Well, when it comes to something supernatural, no, it's not enough. If you're going to tell me that somebody saw, hold on. If you're going to tell me that somebody, that's two different claims.
it's not.
Me saying that my sister loves me is not a supernatural claim. You
Of course it
saying
is.
no, how is it supernatural? We know that love exists. It's a chemical reaction in the brain. We can measure it. We can see it.
Then you can measure dopamine in the brain. That's not love, bro. That's dopamine.
It's a chemical reaction, which is we can test it, we can see it, we can verify it. That is completely
measure it,
different.
like,
That is completely different than a man rising from the dead like a zombie.
Wait. How is dopamine and love linked scientifically?
Because that's what we call love is the word we use to call the effects that we feel from dopamine. And it's just a
Like,
chemical
well,
reaction.
How are you gonna prove that scientifically, bro?
We know because we can look at it. We can see it
You have
on.
those look, bro. You have those
What?
same dopamine responses when you get angry. You have those same dopamine.
We can see it, and
responses.
when we do scans on the brain, we can see it.
Dude, you can see dopamine responses. What
That's
does that
what-
have to do with a human construct worldview called love?
Love is a word that we use to describe what we're feeling with the dopamine, with the chemical reaction.
You know, I get that, but it's.
But
like
that's a different
talking
claim.
about
But
abstract-
I want to go back to you saying, that my sister telling me she loves me is a supernatural claim.
No, but like, look, my point is, you claiming that love is real, right? And we know it's real. That, like, no, you haven't. There's no proof that love is real. That's a human construct. There's no proof it's real.
What is love? What is love? What is it?
It's a feeling humans have a word for.
Yeah, and we can subjectively feel those feelings, right?
Yeah,
They're real. They exist.
but how do you prove that?
We can see it we can scan the brain and see the chemical reactions happening.
Yeah, you can see dopamine responses.
But you
happening.
can't do that. You can't do any of that. You cannot do any of that for the resurrection of Jesus.
Well, if someone says, "What if I'm having a brain response when I'm encountering Jesus," and you're measuring that response, and I'm saying that's Jesus, you just picked it up on.
There's no way to verify that you were actually experiencing
That's the same
Jesus.
claim with love. That's the exact same claim with love.
How? How is it the same thing?
Because how are you going to quantify it?
What does that mean? Quantify it.
How are you going to link love, the word that we used, with the dopamine response?
Because that's what everybody calls it. Everybody calls it
Okay,
love.
well, then, well, cool. Let's say I call that my encounter with God, and you're measuring that brain response. Does that make God real then?
Well, you would have to make sure. Yeah, you'd have to prove which specific God it is, and you'd have to demonstrate that God exists.
Well, you would have to prove which specific love it is and what love it is.
Which specific love it is?
Exactly.
What do you mean? Which specific love?
You said I would have to prove that a certain God is encountering me. Now, what if 100,000 people come and they say, we have this dopamine response whenever we're encountering God, and there's a physical dopamine response when that's happening? Does that prove God then?
So is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying, that if somebody has like a feeling in their brain and they say it's God, that objectively proves that God is real?
Well, that's what you said. That you claim that objectively proves love is real.
No, I don't think I said that.
Well,
I think I
you
said
did
we
claim
can
love is
prove.
real.
No, I said we can prove that there are chemical reactions happening in the brain.
Yes, and you link that to a word called love.
And whatever
Now, what
it
if-
is, love is just a word that we use to describe the reaction. Like whatever the opposite of, what's the opposite of dopamine that causes fear? What is? Do you know what that is? I'm not sure what that is, but
No, I'm not sure.
we would use fear to describe that, and we would use the word anxiety to describe those chemical reactions, and we would use depression to describe those chemical reactions. The ones that dopamine causes, we call those love, and we can
Now, what if-
see. Huh?
Yeah, but what if people had certain responses to religious stimuli?
I don't think there's any way to verify it or prove that it was linked to something supernatural. It would just be chemical reactions in the brain.
Exactly. So that wouldn't prove. So, by your own logic, love is unprovable.
I don't think so. I think we can prove that people feel emotions.
No, I can totally concede, bro. I'm just playing like an intellectual word game with you. Like, I'm not like trying to value anything.
Yeah, I think we can prove that people feel emotions, and we have certain words that describe those emotions, like love.
Like this guy in the comments said, we can literally see love. No, you can't.
Like, is
Show
it
me
something?
that.
Is it something tangible that I can hold in my hand? No, I don't think so. But you could see it happening in the brain.
Yeah, you can see chemical reactions happening in the brain.
Yeah, and we have words that describe certain chemical reactions.
So when your wife says she loves you, she's just having a chemical reaction with herself. It's really got nothing to do with you.
It makes it, there's something about me that releases dopamine into her brain and causes her to feel good and feel love.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to look at it. But yeah, like I keep thinking like this is like stage one, bro. And at the end of it, there's like a loading screen. So it doesn't really matter how rough or how hectic stuff is in stage one. It's just prepping us for stage two.
You have no good reason to believe that there's an afterlife.
Yes, I do.
Like what? What's a good justified belief for an afterlife?
The testimony of humans who've died.
Near-death experiences are just chemical reactions. That's all they are. Isn't it? And
Yeah.
isn't it kind of funny that the people that have these
If you dismiss those chemical reactions, then how is love real?
the emotion that the reaction that's happening in the brain is real, and the word
the
love is just
reaction-
the word love is just a descriptor. It's just a word we use to describe the
but you
emotion.
claim-
The emotion is real. But isn't it kind of funny that the people that have near-death experiences, Christians always see Jesus, Muslims always see Allah. A Muslim who has a near-death experience never sees Jesus. A Christian who has a near-death experience never sees Allah. Right? Isn't that kind of interesting?
Well, most of them like have this experience where they claim that it goes on, it doesn't
Right.
stop.
It's a claim. It's a claim.
Yeah, but that's the same claim as your wife claiming she loves you. It's unprovable.
No, the emotion is provable. You can see the chemical reaction that's causing the emotion in the brain. You can verify that is happening.
You can see a dopamine response is happening. You can't prove that's love.
We use the word love to describe that reaction.
Yeah, I get it, bro. But you see, it's just a word linked to it. There's no scientific proof that is actually love.
There is scientific proof that the chemical reaction is happening, which is causing an emotion. That emotion is just what we use the word love for. That's it.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, I have another guest. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
I know, dude. Anyways, have a good night, bro.
You too. Thank you, sir. Well, I had another guest, but they dropped out. Sarah, I saw Sarah Cheyenne in the guest request. If you want to come back up. Everyone keep double tapping the screen, guys. And make sure you're spamming the shares. Thanks for the gifts so far. Read Exodus 21:16. Isn't that about like kidnapping people? Let me see. Anyone who kidnaps someone is to be put to death, whether the victim has been sold or is still in the kidnapper's possession. Yeah, what does it have to do with slavery? Slavery is where you legally buy a human through the proper channels of buying a slave. You're not allowed to steal somebody, especially somebody free like your own fellow Hebrew. Exodus 20:16 does not forbid slavery. If that was true, then you have to explain Leviticus 25:44-46, and you'd have to explain Exodus 20-21. You'd have to explain Exodus 21:7. Like this one verse, you're telling me this one verse cancels out 4 other verses? Exodus 21:16 is not about slavery, it's about kidnapping. But if you'd like to, you can come up here and we can talk about it. How are you doing, Logan? I'm good. It's specifically about kidnapping Hebrews. Yeah. If you're a Christian in the comments and you're 18 plus, go ahead and send a guest request. So let's talk about why you're all good, all loving God is totally fine with the Israelites having slaves, but he does not want them to wear mixed fabrics. Which one of those things is worse? Which one of those things is worse? Like owning slaves or wearing mixed fabrics? Here's a hint. It's the slaves. Somebody said mixed fabrics is worse. Earlier in the comments, somebody said that it's because wearing mixed fabrics is bad for the body. You know what else is bad for the body? Slavery. That's what's bad. You know what else is bad for the body? Beating somebody with a rod. That's bad for the body. Mr. Goat, come on up here, Mr. Goat. Let's talk.
Hey, I really don't have much. Thank you for bringing me up, though. I appreciate it. I really don't have much.
Sorry. You got an echo. Can you just swipe out and swipe back in?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, that should be better. Just real quick, yeah, so the whole, like...
wait 1 second. Wait 1 second. You said I hate context, so I'm assuming you think I'm missing context somewhere?
I'm kind of like, in the comments, I'm kind of like a troll. I'm sorry.
Are you a Christian?
I am.
Well, how am I supposed to believe anything from here on out if you're just saying you're a troll?
Dude, forgive me, okay? Forgive me.
No, I don't think you were trolling. I think you really genuinely think that I'm missing context somewhere.
Well, I do, but I didn't.
Well, give me the context.
I'm saying I didn't mean to say, and like I wasn't trying to be condescending. That's what I was.
I would just like the context that you claim.
Yeah. So for the mixed fabrics, it's because there were priestly garments, and then there was whatever the people wore. And if somebody were to wear, they were referring to that. So if somebody were to wear the priestly garments when it wasn't their role, that would be problematic. So it's about keeping the priestly garments for those that were.
Is that worse than having slaves?
Yeah, so I'm saying that's for the fabrics. For the slaves, it talks about how God regulated things in the Old Testament because of the hardness of men's hearts. So what God laid out at that point wasn't the ideal, but it's what he saw fit for that point so that people were to adapt to it because of the hardness of their hearts. That's what it says.
So God didn't think that people would listen to his commands? If God said don't have slaves, he didn't think people would listen to it, so therefore he's just said, actually, you can have slaves. Here's the instructions.
No, we know that God didn't want slaves because eventually that's what it is, right? That slavery is a sin, right?
Well, where does God say slavery is a sin?
It's gonna be. I think there's like maybe you could use. There's neither Jew nor Greek nor black nor white nor male and female. Like you use.
I can show you passages where God, in fact, gives the Israelites all kinds of instructions and regulations on how to practice slavery.
Right. So we don't believe in sola scriptura. So some things could be not in the Bible and true. So we know from.
So the Bible's not the reliable word of God.
The Bible is not the sole infallible authority. No.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you get to just look at certain passages and say, "Nah, that's bullshit." But this passage, that's the word of God.
We look at everything holistically with tradition in mind.
So you don't think the Bible is the true? The Bible, as we have it today, is not reliable.
No, it is. It's just not the sole infallible authority. Does that?
Well, if the Bible if the Bible is reliable, then I have passages here where God says to the Israelites, "You're allowed to have slaves."
Right, and what did I say about that?
You said that God says that slavery is a sin, but that's not true because God is sitting here telling people they can practice slavery.
Right, but the Bible is not the sole infallible authority. So eventually, right, because like we said, it's because of the hardness of men's hearts that God regulates things. And so this is how he saw it fit to regulate it at the time.
So are you saying that the reason God didn't tell the Israelites, "I command you to not have slaves," is because he doesn't think the Israelites will listen to him?
Right, possibly that or something else. Like, this is how he saw it fit.
But that doesn't make sense because God said, "Don't murder, don't lie," right?
Those are different things.
But wouldn't people who have hardened hearts still just go ahead and murder and still go ahead and lie? So if God could have said, "Don't murder and don't lie," he could have also said, "And hey, don't have slaves."
I don't think so. I just want to make sure it's clear that you understand that as you and I speak, slavery is a sin according to Christianity.
Where?
Right. So this is what I'm telling you. The Bible is not the sole infallible authority for faith.
Where can I learn that sin is a slave? Slave is a sin to God.
Yeah, the writings of the church fathers.
Why should I trust them over the Word of God in the Bible?
Right, because the Bible itself does not say to be Bible only. Do you know what sola scriptura means? Are you familiar with that?
Why should I trust what the church fathers say over what God says?
Right, so I'm trying to explain it. Do you know what sola scriptura means?
No.
Yeah, so sola scriptura is Latin for scripture alone, which in the Christian context means Bible alone. This was made up in I'm not Catholic. This was made up in like the 1500s, right? Which the claim is that the Bible is the sole infallible authority from God. But that makes sense because Christ didn't come down with a Bible in his hand. He didn't come down to give us a Bible. That's nonsense. Christ came to give us a church, and the church produced the Bible it was canonized 300, 400, 500 years after, right?
Why should I trust what the church fathers say over Moses?
Over Moses?
Yep.
That's a false dichotomy. Also, I'm gonna have to.
Why should I trust? Who should you trust? The man Moses, who claimed to have gotten the exact revelation from God, explaining all the rules to the Israelites.
I'm not.
Or
Catholic,
the church fathers.
So.
I didn't say anything about.
I'm just responding to
Why should I trust the church fathers over Moses?
That's a false dichotomy. They don't disagree.
Well, Moses says that God told him that slavery is permissible. The church fathers are saying that no, slavery is a sin.
No, because those are different times, right? The God's commandment to different people is different. So,
wait, God's commandment to different people is what? Different?
Like the context is different, right? And like what he commanded, I am Orthodox. What he commanded his prophets is different than what he commanded you and I. It's different than.
I'm not talking about commands. I'm talking about when God told Moses that the Israelites are allowed to have slaves.
Yes. Where did the church fathers disagree with that?
Why should I care about what the church fathers say over Moses? Who's more important in your religion, the church fathers or Moses?
It's not either or. They're perfectly in agreement.
No, they're not. Because Moses never says that slavery is a sin, but the church fathers do.
Right, because they live in different times. It wasn't.
Well, then you don't say that they're perfectly in agreement when they're not.
No, they're perfectly in agreement that back then.
Oh, okay. Let's try this again. Moses and the church fathers are completely in agreement, right?
Yeah. Let me.
Did Moses? Hold on.
Okay, no. I'm trying to explain it to you.
Moses. Hold on. I just want to point this out.
It's
Moses.
It's not,
hold on. Moses and the church fathers are in complete agreement, correct?
I'm trying to explain it to you. Like I can explain it.
Hold on. I want to point this out. Did you say that Moses and the church fathers are in complete agreement?
Yes, bro.
Does Moses say that slavery is a sin?
That wasn't revealed. I need to read Moses, but it wasn't revealed to Moses.
Did the church fathers say that slavery is a sin?
Yes.
And did Moses tell the Israelites that God told them they're allowed to have slaves in Leviticus 25?
Yeah. Here's the one that you're missing.
Answer my question. Answer my question. Answer my
Do
question.
they live in different times?
Sir, answer my question. Do the church fathers say that slavery is a sin? Yes. And did Moses tell the Israelites that God told him that they're allowed to have slaves in Leviticus 25? Yes. So they are not in complete agreement. You lied.
No, because do they live in different times?
That's irrelevant.
Yes.
They're not in complete agreement.
How is that irrelevant? Let's say the lights are on.
How are they in complete agreement? I want you to explain to me how they are in complete agreement.
I was look. I was in the house yesterday, and the lights were on, and then you're in the house today, and the lights are off. Okay, and we both together say, yesterday lights were on and today the lights are off. That's what's happening.
No, because
the church
we would not be in complete agreement at that point.
Yes, we are. Yesterday the lights were on, today the lights are off. How does that
yesterday the lights were on the whole day, you're saying?
It's like it's like a hypothetical, it's reductio.
Yes, okay. So yesterday the lights were on the whole day, and you saw the lights were on the whole day, right?
Yeah.
And then today I saw that the lights were off all day.
Yeah, so they were off for you.
That's two different things. That's two different things.
Exactly.
Right? But how can the church fathers and Moses be in complete agreement when the church fathers are saying slavery is bad in Christianity and Moses is saying, nope, God said it's morally permissible?
Right, because that's a false dichotomy. Both can be true.
What? How can they both be true when Moses is saying...
Because it's a different time.
Oh, all right. You're just being so disingenuous right now.
How is that disingenuous? The lights were on.
Moses says that God said slavery is morally permissible.
Yeah, that's like
the
Moses
church fathers.
The
church fathers say no, it's not morally permissible. That is not in a complete agreement.
Because of Christ's earthly ministry, bro. What's hard to explain? Like
you're just contradicting yourself.
You understand things change, right? It's not that. Thank you.
Where does Jesus say? What does Jesus say about the Old Testament writings?
It depends on what specifically.
In Matthew 5, Jesus says, "Not one bit of the old law will go away until the heavens and the earth are gone."
Okay, that means that there's still the law.
Which means that everybody and he also says anybody who follows the old law will be the greatest in God's kingdom, but anyone who refuses to obey the least of these commandments will be the least in God's kingdom. God in Deuteronomy,
like a whole theological debate. I was trying to explain.
Didn't you just say that Jesus changed everything?
Yeah, that's what all Christians believe, that we're under a new covenant.
Yeah, but I'm trying to tell you, your Bible disagrees with that.
No.
Yes, Matthew 5. What does Jesus say? What does Jesus say in Matthew 5? What's he say?
You have to stop sticking to like this sola scriptura bit, because it's not.
The Bible is the Bible your holy book?
Huh?
Is the Bible your holy book?
Amen.
Okay, so everything in the Bible is true because it comes from God, right?
Everything. No, it depends on your interpretation. You can have a wrong interpretation, and that's why we have the church.
So you trust the church fathers' interpretation over slavery rather than Moses' interpretation.
That's not. Look, I've already explained that one. You're not getting.
Who's more important in your religion, the church fathers or Moses?
I mean, you could argue for Moses, but that's a false dichotomy.
Okay, if Moses is more of an important figure in your religion, then I want to talk about what Moses says about slavery. Okay, I don't give a fuck about the church fathers. They're not as important. Moses is like the number one man, and is God's like number one man, right? He's the prophet or whatever that God talked to on Mount whatever, right?
You're not. It's okay. You're not. I don't know how else to explain. Maybe I could come up with like a better analogy for you next time, but I don't know how you're truly not explaining it.
I don't know how you're saying that the church fathers and Moses are understanding it. Well, because I'm not understanding it, because you're saying that the church fathers and that Moses are in complete agreement when Moses says the opposite of the church fathers.
Yeah, because Moses was under a different covenant.
So then they're not a complete agreement, are they?
No, they're in agreement that they're under different.
Okay, let's try this again. They're in agreement. Moses says slavery is okay. The church father says no. Does that sound like an agreement?
Holy moly. Let me try to give another.
Is that an agreement? Is that an agreement? Moses said slavery is okay. The church fathers say no, it's not. Is that an agreement?
That's not what the church fathers say, though.
You told me that the church fathers said that slavery is a sin in Christianity.
Yes.
And does Moses say that slavery is a sin in Christianity?
Let me try to explain. Like, let me try. You're not trying to understand it.
I'm losing my mind with this fucking guy. That's not an agreement. I don't know if you know what agreements are. I don't know if you know how agreements work. The church fathers say that slavery is a sin in Christianity. Moses says, no, you're allowed to have slaves, and God says it's morally permissible. That's not an agreement. That's a disagreement. These people are so fucking brainwashed, and they try to twist themselves into such pretzels that they try to change what the word agreement means. Words have meaning. Yes, words have meaning. This is why I stopped going live, because I just have no patience anymore.
Hello. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Pretty sweet, bro. About that last conversation, it was totally out of context, and it was just going in circles, man, so I don't even blame you for kicking him. It was a very bad theological standpoint, and I'm a Christian, and I'm even going to say that was super, super corrupt of word choices he used. He contradicted himself, man.
Yeah, he did, and I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. So me, I don't care about the church fathers and stuff. You know, their teachings and everything's cool, but on my phone.
You're cutting out.
Can you hear me, bro?
Yeah, you kind of cutting out a little bit.
All right, so back then we have to look at the context of society, man. So when we looked into the Egyptian world, slavery was mostly indentured servants, man. So most of the slaves, they would marry their slave master's daughter, you know, or they would gain an inheritance, their whole inheritance from their slave master. So slavery back then was a lot different. Moses considered himself a slave. Even said his son, Abraham, said that he would be a slave, his son.
Right.
So slavery was extremely different back then to what it was in the 1800s or where it was in modern day, you know, society, man.
I got you. So the indentured slaves, they go free after a certain time, right? Like after 6 or 7 years or when they pay their debt off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not talking about those slaves. I'm talking about the slaves that are owned for life.
So those that you say that are owned for life, that's why I brought up that statement earlier, man. Usually when the owner or the master would die in the Old Testament, they would gain the inheritance of that master. And if you look at it nowadays, I don't think any slave master is going to give an inheritance to their...
I'm not sure if you've read Leviticus 25, 44 through 46.
I have, man. I have.
What does it say?
I can't read it entirely because it's a very big passage, but it basically...
It's 3 verses. It's 3 verses.
It basically kind of like outlines the indentured servant.
No. Indentures, we both agreed that indentured servants get to go free, right?
Yeah.
But the slaves...
For me, brother?
Yeah, it's about your men and women slaves. You may get men and women slaves from the nations around you, meaning the nations outside of Israel, of the Israelites. Also, you may get children as slaves if they come from the families of the foreigners living in your land. These child slaves will belong to you. You may even pass these foreign slaves on to your children after you die, so that they will belong to them. They will be your slaves forever. You may make slaves of these foreigners, but you must not be a cruel master over your own brothers, the Israelites. So that's chattel slavery. That's literally owning a slave for life. They're not free to go.
I wouldn't really consider that, man. Just most of the things in the Old Testament, most slaves, they did end up going free.
Where does it say they can go free?
I'll go ahead and give you to show you how they treated them. And, you know, slavery was, you know, kind of condoned.
It says you can beat them with a rod with no punishment as long as they don't die.
Yeah, it does say that.
So I understand that there's indentured slavery, there's indentured servitude or debt slavery, and then there's the type of slavery where the Israelites can purchase slaves from the heathen nations around them, and those are the slaves they can own for life and pass on to their children. That's the slavery that I'm specifically referring to. And even in the indentured slavery, the women don't get to go free as the men do. Did you know that?
Yeah.
So even in the Hebrew slavery, not all of them get to go free. Only the male Hebrew slaves can go free. Are you there?
Yeah.
If you swipe out of the app, I can't hear you or see you. Just so if you're talking, I can't hear you.
No, you're good, man.
So I have a problem with this God saying, "Hey, don't wear mixed fabrics. I will not allow that. That is a command. You're not allowed to do that. But when it comes to you guys having slaves, I'll allow it. You can do that."
We have to look at the time period back then, man. You know, we can't look at it as modern society. Realistically, time back then was extremely different. Yes, they're, you know, human beings and everything, but
is God's morality restricted by time periods?
No, man, but our choices as human beings are, as we were very uncivilized, and most of the things in the Old Testament, the murdering, the pillages and plundering of villages and stuff, murdering of children that God had commanded was because most of these, out foreign regions were, sacrificing their children to other gods, or they were raping their women, or they were, committing extreme acts of sexual immorality and blasphemous acts towards God. So if you look in the Old Testament, the Canaanites, they were. I got you, man. A little while just to find it, just because I got to pull it up, bro. I'm not gonna have it on hand, but
and I understand you're saying that like they have choices and God's going to allow them to make choices, right? But they also have the choice to murder, and God said, "Don't murder." They have the choice to lie, and God said, "Don't fucking lie." They have the choice to wear mixed fabrics, and God said, "No, don't do that." So he could have also said, even though I know you have the choice to have slaves, just like you have the choice to lie and murder and wear mixed fabrics, but don't have slaves.
But if we go in Genesis, I think 15:3, brother, what does Abraham say there?
What does he say? Tell me. Genesis 15:3. Abraham said, "You have given me no son, so a slave born in my house will get everything I have." Yeah, I'm not talking about the Hebrew slaves, the foreign slaves.
It's not talking about a Hebrew slave.
Yes, and Abraham, people who were born to Abraham would be Hebrews.
What did he say right there? This is Abraham before Moses. He has a slave right there. And what did he say to that? I don't believe that a Hebrew would have another Hebrew slave, man.
You don't believe that a Hebrew would... A Hebrew would have another Hebrew slave, but they're allowed to go free after 6 or 7 years unless the master gives him a wife and children. And then when his time is to go free, the wife and the children stay with the master. And if the slave wants to keep his family, he has to devote himself to the master, let the master pierce his ear, and then he'll be owned forever. So there is a loophole to own your Hebrew, a fellow Hebrew, forever. That's in Exodus.
Yeah, but you have to look at the context of slavery back then, man. It wasn't as it was today. I feel like people nowadays look at slavery now.
The slaves in the 1800s, were they owned for life and were they beaten?
Yeah, they were.
Right. And the foreigners in 45 through 46 that says you can own them forever and pass them on to your children, were they owned for life?
I mean, I wouldn't possibly know. I didn't really live back then, but due to the context,
you didn't live in the 1800s either, and you just said, yeah, they were owned for life.
Well, yeah, but they have history.
So the Bible. So the Bible. You don't trust the history of the Bible, but you trust the history of the 1800s. I do, man,
but you don't have to attack the logic of mine. I trust the reliability of the Bible. I see what you're trying to do, but no, man, slavery was extremely different back then.
Okay, well, let's try this again. The 1800 slaves, were they owned for life and were they beaten?
Yes.
And the slaves mentioned in 44 through 46, you may even pass these slaves on to your children. Hold on.
Were the slaves owned in the Old Testament? Beaten? Yes. But were they given inheritances? Were they treated extremely different? Yes.
Not the foreign slaves, no. Not the foreign slaves. It even makes a clear distinction here. The foreign slaves, you may even pass these foreign slaves onto your children after you die, and they'll belong to them. They'll be your slaves forever. You may make slaves of these foreigners, and here's the distinction, but you must not be a cruel master over your own brothers, the Israelites. So right there, it's saying very clearly, don't be cruel to your Israelites who sell themselves to you, but when the foreigners, the ones that you get from the heathen nations around you, there's no distinction, there's no rules or laws saying that you have to be good to them or treat them fairly. It says you can make slaves of them.
Argon Aaron, if we go to Romans, it actually says, talks about slavery there as well, but it talks about indentured servitude, and it actually tells them to treat their, servants well.
I'm talking
to Aaron in the chat because he said you cannot find one verse that says treat your foreign slaves well.
It is beating your slave with a rod, treating them well.
So if he were to commit something horribly, right?
Who? The slave?
Yeah. I don't believe that anyone gets beat just for no reason.
Okay, show me the verse where it says you're only allowed to beat your slave if they do something wrong.
I can't pull that up, man.
There is no verse that says you're only allowed to beat your slave if they do something wrong. It just says anyone who beats their slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies. But they are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property. There's no distinction saying that you could only have the right to beat your slave if they do something wrong.
No, that takes human interaction to understand that. It takes justice to know that.
Well, if God is so just, then he would have made that distinction. He would have put that in there and said, you can beat your slave, but only if they deserve the punishment, if they've committed something against you that deserves a beating.
So one thing we have to do when we jump back to the actual Old Testament, we have to read it in the actual language that it was transcribed in. So when we look in that actual language, the word that you use for slave means servant, brother.
Okay, call it what you want. Call it a listen. Call it a servant, call it a butler, call it a maid. It says you can own them forever and that they're not to go free. You can pass them on to your children. So you can try and church it up and say it's not slave, it's servant. You can call it a maid, you can call it a butler, you can call it a pool boy. Call it what you want to call it. It says you can own them forever.
Yeah, man, I guess so, if you'd like to say that, but I'm not really trying to dodge any type of questions.
I'm not saying that. That's what your book says.
Yeah, but one thing you have to understand with the book, you have to go through the context, you have to go through the actual history to understand the actual time period, and I just don't feel like there's that mutual understanding here to continue this conversation, so I'm going to take a step and I'll step out, man.
Okay. Can I say it, guys? I'd have to say that was a pretty Kentucky Fried Christian right there. I'll be honest. That was a extra crispy KFC. But that was a good conversation. I appreciate you coming up here, man. Guys, make sure you guys are spamming the likes, everybody. And make sure you're spamming the shares, guys. It gets really tiresome hearing the same old arguments, it doesn't mean slave, it means servant. Well, fine, but it says you can own them for life. Call it a butler, call it a maid, it says you can own them forever. Well, it says you have to treat them good. No, you're allowed to beat them. Well, you're allowed to beat them if they do something wrong. Where's the verse? Where's the verse that says you're only allowed to beat them if they do something wrong? Well, it's just pure justice. Okay, well, if God's just, then why didn't he make that distinction? You can only beat your slave if they do something wrong. Well, you got to go back into the context and find out, what the meaning of the times were. So is God's morality bound by the times? No, that's not what I'm saying. They just keep making excuses over and over and over and over again. Just admit it. Just like own it. Own what your book says. Your book says that God is totally fine with slavery, and that's your God. Just own it. I have more respect for Christians who come up here and say, "Yep, that's fucking my God said that, and that's what's good because God said it." Hello?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I am fine.
Good. Are you a Christian?
Yes, I am.
All right, what would you like to talk about here?
Well, I was listening to you. It sounds like you're opposed to all slavery.
Opposed to all slavery? Yeah, I think it's wrong to to own somebody as against their will and own them for life.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you would accept any type of slavery.
If you're going to try to make the argument that prisons is a form of slavery, I would say that, I think our prison system needs a lot of work, but those people have committed crimes, and I'm totally opposed to somebody innocent being owned as property for life, for sure, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so you're willing to make an exception and say that slavery, judicial slavery, is acceptable.
I wouldn't call people in jail or prison slaves because they're not owned. And they can't. The prison cannot pass them. I specifically wouldn't compare it to the biblical slavery, because the prison system doesn't own you, and the prison system cannot pass you on to their children, and they're not allowed to beat you with a rod. I'm sure there is some abuse in the prison systems, but it's not legal. So it's kind of I don't know. I think that's a really bad argument to try to compare the prison system to biblical slavery.
Well, it's not an argument. It's just simply what it is. People who get arrested and convicted of a felony, they become the slave of the state. They lose their rights. They don't have any civil liberties. Do you understand that?
Yeah, but they've committed a crime.
That's correct. But
so I wouldn't compare that to the biblical slavery in the verses in 44, like Leviticus 25. Those people have not committed any crimes.
Yeah. When I used to be a prison guard, they couldn't get up and leave whenever they wanted to.
Who?
The prisoners.
Yeah,
They-
but they committed a crime, sir.
They didn't own anything of themselves.
They committed a crime, sir.
That's correct. And that
Yeah, I wouldn't
initiates
compare that to the
slavery.
biblical. I wouldn't compare that to the slaves who were being owned in Leviticus 25.
Well, there's different types of slavery: chattel slavery, sexual.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the chattel slavery.
Judicial slavery. I know you're making an exception for judicial slavery, but you're trying to say like
I
there is
would
no
not
exception for
compare
that.
it. I think it's wrong. I think it needs a lot of work, but I would not compare it to the biblical slavery where it says you can even own children as slaves.
Well, there was prisons even in the times of the Bible. You would agree with that, right?
Yeah, and that's probably for people who committed crimes.
Who's the master of the prison? The inmates or the warden?
How do you define master?
The one who owns the individuals that they have incarcerated and tell them when to get up, what to wear.
So
when
you're
to shower,
saying the
when to eat,
warden-
when to go to sleep, when the lights go on, when the lights go off.
You're saying the warden physically owns these prisoners, like that is his property, his or her
He has
property.
ward over them.
Oh, that's different than ownership.
Oh, he has the authority over them.
But that's different than ownership, though.
Would you accept the idea that a master has authority over the slave, or he does not?
In the biblical slavery, or like the 1800 slavery, the master would have ownership. Yes.
Any form of slavery at this point. We're just
No,
establishing
because
the
you're
point
painting
coincides.
you're painting all slavery with one brush. It's all the same thing, but that's not true.
No,
There's
I've never
different-
said they're all the same thing. I said they're different forms, but I'm saying that there are points of coincidence.
Okay, if you agree that there's different forms of slavery, then I'm talking about biblical slavery, not the judicial system. So let's talk about your biblical God, the one who says that he's totally fine with the Israelites having slaves.
But you would accept the fact that if there is a point of coincidence, then an analogy can be established. You can't have an analogy without at least one point of coincidence. You understand what an analogy is?
I don't think. Yeah, I'm capable of understanding what an analogy is, and I don't think that the biblical slavery and that the judicial, what's it called? The judicial prison
Judicial
system.
slavery.
No, I would not say that the biblical slavery and that the judicial system is analogous.
Even though they forced the inmates to wear chains,
They've committed a crime. It's not the same thing.
they're not a slave to the state until
Have
their
the
debt is paid.
children in Leviticus 25 committed a crime?
When the indentured servants are slaves to their masters,
Have the children in Leviticus 25 committed a crime?
yes, they have.
What crime?
They have committed a sin.
What sin?
They sinned in Adam when he fell.
They weren't even born yet. What are you talking about?
I know they weren't born yet. I'm talking about original sin. Do you know what that is?
I'm talking about the foreigners that the Hebrews are allowed to own, the foreign children that the Hebrews are allowed to own. What sin have they committed?
They sinned in Adam. It's called original sin. They are the natural posterity of Adam.
I can't deal with this preaching nonsense.
Well, if you
I can't deal with the preaching nonsense, guys. I'm sorry. He was cooked right there. Ugh. I can't deal with that preaching shit. The sin in Adam. The sin when Adam fell. You know, oh, you mean when God planted the tree of knowledge of good and evil and knowing that Adam and Eve would sin, and then he gets, oh my God, I can't believe you did what I knew you were going to do. That part, the part where you're all-knowing God put the tree of knowledge of good and evil in front of Adam and Eve and told them not to do it, even though he knew they were going to do it. And then when they did what he knew they were going to do, he was like, holy shit, how could you do what I knew you were going to do? How could you do that? That part of the story? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Good to see you guys in here. Everybody, I'm glad that you guys are here hanging out with me. I'm trying so hard to like keep my patience, guys. This is why I stopped going live, because I'm just like, oh, I don't have the patience for this. Good to see you, Justin. Thanks for using the little emojis. Thank you guys for all you guys using the emojis. What else could I say here? We don't have any guest requests. So if you are a Christian in the chat and you are 18 plus, go ahead and come up here. Let's talk about why your all-loving, all-good God says, you know, wearing mixed fabrics, you better not. You better not do that. Oh, you guys want to have slaves? That's fine. I'll allow that. Thank you for the hand hearts. Appreciate you. We miss skits, especially the one that loves God. Yeah, I miss doing that too. I don't know. I'm so burnt out on these live streams, guys. I did one a couple days ago, and I'm doing one right now, obviously. And I don't know. I think I still need to take more time off from doing this shit. I was away for like a month and a half, and I just don't feel like the motivation to do it anymore. I can't put up with the people. They are so exhausting. So exhausting. Like, I just don't understand how, like, Justin can do it for like 3 days a week for 6 hours or whatever it is that he does. Is just crazy. It takes a toll for sure. Especially when you do the slavery topic, because God, man, they just use the same old arguments over and over and over again, and then they just make so many excuses. So many excuses. Can't they just say slavery is wrong? They could say that, but then they'd be disagreeing with God. And you can't do that. Can't disagree with God. The moment you realize, that should be a huge eye-opener for you. The moment that you realize, hey, I disagree with God's morality here. How can that be? How can I disagree with God's morality? That should tell you something. That should tell you something. Unless you just, well, you know what? His ways are higher than mine. I'm just an ant compared to God. No. It's wrong. If you feel it in your heart and you feel it in your bones that it's wrong, but your God says it's not wrong, there's a problem there. There's a problem there. You need to maybe take a step away from this God, away from this Bible. And it gets way worse than the slavery. Trust me. When you start looking into God's morality, it gets way worse than the slavery. As abhorrent and as terrible as slavery it is, it gets way worse than that. Since when do feelings determine what is right or wrong? Well, I don't believe in objective morality, so it's just my opinion. I don't think there's any way to demonstrate that morality can be proven objectively independent of my understanding. It's just my own subjective opinion that slavery is bad, or it's just my own subjective opinion that I disagree with God's morality. The morality of the God character of the Bible is atrocious to me. But that's just my subjective opinion. I want to do. Let's change the background here. This is pretty funny. This is a funny thing to talk about here. Because if you just read it, like if you're just reading the Bible as like a book of fiction, right? You're not religious. You don't subscribe to any religion, and you're just reading the Bible. It's like, oh, it's a fictional book. I'm going to read it. And you look at the what the God character of the Bible does compared to what the Satan character does. Holy shit! What's the worst thing Satan ever does in the Bible? He tricks Adam and Eve into eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? But look at what the God character does in the Bible. Holy shit! He does a lot of terrible things. Like, if it's true that God didn't want Adam and Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that means that God didn't want Adam and Eve to know good. And if you don't know good, how can you know love, right? I don't see how it's possible for me to know love if I don't know good. So thankfully, Satan comes along and tells Eve to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and now we have the knowledge of good, which allows us to know love. So in a sort of silly way, thanks to Satan, we all know what love is. We don't know what love is because God didn't want us to have the knowledge of good. He wanted us to be robots, I guess. I don't know. But Satan came along and was like, nah, Eve, you need to eat from that tree of knowledge of good and evil, then you'll know good. And then now we know what's good in our lives. I know love. I know my hobbies, my interests. I know that I enjoy things. I know all of those things because they're good. And the only reason we know them is because of Satan, who told Eve to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good. So what's the worst thing Satan ever did? Satan didn't flood the earth and drown all the pregnant women and children on the planet. Satan didn't command, slaughtering of babies. Satan didn't say that you're allowed to have slaves and that you're allowed to beat them with a rod. Satan didn't say that you're allowed to capture a woman in war and force her to be your bride. I consider that grape. Satan didn't command you to throw stones at your children if you find out that they have a different belief system than you. If you find out they're worshiping other gods. Satan didn't command that. It's really interesting to think about that. Hail Satan. You know what? I'm going to become like a literal Satanist. I'm going to, for real, I think Satan's real. I don't know. I can't prove it, guys. I have faith. I have faith that Satan's real. And that he's way better than God. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Not bad.
Do you disagree with the background?
Actually, I was going to ask you, why do you think Satan's better than God?
What's the worst thing Satan ever did in the Bible?
Try to kill humanity and throw it in the lake of fire?
What verse?
That is the story development.
What verse?
I can probably name a number, but if you know the Bible, you should already know this is his...
I don't think that verse exists. I don't think there's anywhere in there that says Satan tried to throw people in the lake of fire. I think it was God who said that in Revelation 21:8, non-believers will perish into the lake of fire.
Right, by the devil's rebellion and his influence on humanity.
I don't think it mentions anything about the devil in that passage.
But that's the consequence of being part of Satan.
Well, I could tell you why I think Satan is morally better than God, because of the reasons I just listed. I don't know if you heard me, but Satan didn't flood the earth and drown everybody on the planet.
You know that morality is something God created, right? Not the devil.
Okay, prove it.
That's the whole Bible. That's the whole point.
That's a nice circular argument you have there.
It's not a circular argument. The devil.
Yeah, you're saying the Christian God's morality is true because the Christian Bible says so.
No, I'm saying that according to the Christian Bible, that morality and goodness and love and hope and peace and all the good things come from God, and the devil is an enemy of it because he hates you.
Okay, prove that.
It's all through the Bible.
Prove that the Bible is true.
Okay, well, we don't have to believe the Bible if you don't want, but I'm just letting you know what it is.
Well, you're making the claim that morality comes from God, so that now you have the burden of proof of demonstrating that.
Okay, where do you think morality comes from?
I think my morality comes from the empathy that I have of the consequences of my actions.
Okay, and who do you think gives you the empathy to conclude that?
It comes from my mind. It doesn't.
And where's your mind come from?
It doesn't come from anywhere.
Okay, where it doesn't come. You just said it came from. That was a contradiction.
No, it doesn't magically come from anywhere. I am a product of evolution through my ancestors.
Okay, and where did you come from?
From my parents.
Where'd your parents come from?
From their parents. You see, when two people love each other very much, they engage in an activity called sex, and that very often results in human beings being born.
And you think sex and humanity didn't come from God? You think they just have magically appeared on the earth?
No, I don't think that anything just magically appears on earth. I don't believe in magic.
All right, go ahead. I got interrupted.
Huh?
Well, according to what I believe, you can't. According to what I believe, your whole humanity and everything that you are came from God. So the development that you have on conclusional theories on what you believe is moral comes from God as well.
Yeah, I know you believe that, and that's fine. You can believe that, but I don't believe what you believe. But I'd like to.
See, I'd like to ask you.
You said that your morality comes from God, so that means that whatever God thinks is moral, you think is moral, right?
As long as you have the truth in perspective and not some twisted fairy tale that you want to make up because you hate God.
Would you consider like scriptures from the Bible to be twisted fairy tale?
I think that the way you would view it and to try to proclaim it would be a distorted view of what the truth is. Yes.
Okay, well, in Leviticus 20:13, God says that it's morally permissible. In fact, it's a command, in fact, to kill gay people. Do you agree with that?
I think that if we search the scriptures in a proper, accurate way, that we would find that your conclusion would be irrelevant.
Well, what's your conclusion? If a man lies with a male as with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall be put to death.
Correct. Well, I think at that time, because we were so close to the beginning of time, that God was trying to slow down the process of rebellion. And this was his way of delaying the inevitable where Satan would rule man.
Yeah, that's a moral law. And you always agree with God's morality, right?
Yeah, but you're not concluding what I'm suggesting here. I'm saying that it was God's way of slowing it down.
Do you always agree with God's moral law?
In perspective of knowing who God is personally, yes.
Okay, so then you agree with this. You agree that gay people should be put to death according to God's moral law.
I think anything back then, like adultery.
There's your Christian morality, guys.
I'm not done, sir.
There's your Christian objective morality.
Now you're being corruptive, and you're not being honest with yourself.
Oh, really? I'm just repeating what you said. You said that God's morality. You said God's
concluded a thought that I never had, and you made an evaluation I never had.
Okay, let me try again. Is God's morality always good?
Like I said, if you want black and white, cut and dry, then
right,
you're
so
asking
just not going to
guy.
answer. You're just not going to answer. I'm going to move on to somebody else. That's fine. That was a lot of word salad. Just answer. Is God's morality perfect? Do you always agree with God's morality? Here's an example of God's morality. Do you think that's good? Blah, 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 blah. Hello?
I don't think you were seeking the truth, though. Sorry. How are you? How you been?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
What's the truth? What's the truth I should be seeking?
You seem dismissive. I don't think you seem to be motivated by emotion in your conversation. Is there some sort of an agenda? Or are you trying to blow off some steam? I don't understand.
Do you disagree that Satan is morally better than God?
By whose standards? What's your standard measurement?
My subjective standard of morality.
So in that case, there is no morality.
Objectively, no.
What are we debating then?
I'm saying that Satan is morally better than God.
Yeah, my point is there is no morality if it's subjective. It doesn't make sense.
Well, the morality exists. It's just that the morality is subjective. It's my opinion. It's my subjective opinion that Satan is morally better than God. But if you believe that morals are objective, I'd love for you to hear you give evidence of that or prove it.
I understand. I agree with you. If they're subjective, I cannot argue with you. Okay, it's just your preference. I don't have any measurement against your morality. You don't have any measurement against my morality.
Do you disagree that Satan is morally better than God?
We have to establish what morality is first before we decide.
I just said my subjective moralities. I think that Satan is morally better than God. Do you disagree?
I can't disagree with subjectivity, my friend. It's opinion, right?
Well, how about your standard? What's your standard?
Why do you have to borrow my standard to defend your standard? Do you understand how shallow that is?
I just want to know if you disagree with me when I say Satan is morally better than God.
Yeah, you just want
It's not that deep. It's not that deep. It's not that deep.
It is the deepest.
Do you disagree or not? Just do you disagree that Satan is morally better than God?
Are you this fake and empty? Do you have that's all you got?
Why can't people just answer the question? I don't understand.
Because you don't have any substance. You have to substantiate it. Or you can tell us you're just blowing off some steam. You're just having fun with it. You're not a serious individual. And
I would just really like you to please wipe your tears and stop crying and then just engage in the prompt here. Do you disagree that Satan is morally better than God? If you don't want to engage, I can move on.
But first, you have to agree that morality is objective and measurable.
I would love for you to prove that. I will agree if you can prove it. Yes.
If I can prove it, wonderful. So, as humans, we do have a nature. Do you believe that?
A nature, like define nature. Define that. What it means.
Ontology.
Is it like? What's that mean?
So, let me give you another example. Do you believe a species has a nature of its own? A lion cannot be a rabbit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I believe that.
Do you agree?
Yep.
So there are distinct features that makes a lion that you cannot find in a rabbit or in a gazelle or in a zebra. Do you agree?
Yep. Okay.
Okay, so human beings have a nature.
Okay.
Okay, and that nature has laws and regulations. Do you believe that? It has limitations. It has boundaries.
Like what?
It cannot do whatever it wants, whenever it wants, right?
Like so, a hurricane can't form when it wants to.
No, a person cannot be a rabbit cannot be a person. Do you agree?
Okay.
So we have boundaries in our nature, the way
Okay.
we express ourselves, the way we understand ourselves, right?
Okay.
And that nature has laws and regulations.
Okay.
Do you agree? And those laws determine our values.
Okay.
Yes. So if we have a nature and that nature is objective, and by definition, those laws become objective and morality becomes objective. That's the biological argument for morality.
How does it follow that because a human cannot be a rabbit, that objective is or that morality is objective?
Yeah, the reason that I told you human being cannot be a rabbit is to indicate that a human being has a nature in and of itself.
What does it have to do
It's
with
not
morality?
man-made. Wonderful. It means it has priorities in order to survive, in order to maintain itself.
How did you come to that conclusion that it has priorities?
The nature of humanity itself dictates laws and regulations within its nature. A rabbit cannot eat meat. A lion cannot eat grass. That is within its nature.
A lion
It gives it boundaries.
can eat grass, and a rabbit can eat meat.
What do you mean? Its biological nature is not made for carnivorous.
But they
consumption.
can. They don't, but they can.
Yeah, it's not. Do you not understand? So let me give you an example. Another example.
I'm not sure how. I'm not sure where. Like, can you get to where morality is objective?
I understand. I'm going for it. So a lion cannot live like a fish. It's not made for the underwater.
Okay.
You agree with that?
Okay, I agree.
That seems to be concrete.
Okay.
Okay. So just like that, a human being cannot do certain things because it is bounded by its
what?
nature.
What are certain things we can't do? Live like a fish?
Okay. Yeah. Do you believe human beings are social animals?
Not all of us, no. Like me, I'm not social at all.
I understand. Do you believe human beings cannot live without intimacy, companionship, and social unity?
Yes, human beings can live without companionship. Yes.
So is that going with their nature or against their nature?
The nature is subjective.
Now you're disagreeing with the foundational level. I thought we already agreed that species have a nature.
I see now that I think that the nature of human beings can be subjective because not some people are introverted, some people are not, don't want compassion, some people don't want intimacy, so it's all subjective.
So let me use a word, love. Is that a human universal?
What do you mean by human universal?
Human universal, abundantly, typically, generally speaking, across all humanity.
It's subjective. Love is subjective. Can you just get to where morality is subjective now?
We're trying to understand a human being first before morality.
Wait, where do you get your morality
understand?
from? Where do you get your morality from?
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Can you take your steps?
Wait, where do you get your morality from?
What a human being is.
Where does your objective morality come from? Really quickly.
Do you just want to go to shortcut answers? I like this, I don't like this. Is that what you want?
No, I just want to know where do you get your objective morality from?
Yeah, before I talk to you about my morality, we have to understand what morality is, what a human being is. You have to have foundation, otherwise it's meaningless.
Look, I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to listen to how, like, your argument for how objective morality exists. But I just want to know. Well, hold on. I want to know where you get your objective morality from, and then you can continue trying to prove it.
The intelligible order of the world.
But you're just assuming. You're assuming that the world has intelligence.
Because I am an agent. Do you deny that I am an agent?
Define agent.
Agent is a person who can impose his will or her will on reality, who can understand, grasp reality.
That's subjective.
If that is subjective, then consciousness does not exist.
How does that follow?
How does that? Wonderful. So if a
And
machine...
consciousness is subjective as well, too. Is it not?
man.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
Let me simplify it.
Is
A machine
consciousness subjective or not?
Let me demonstrate it for you. The existence of consciousness is not subjective. Without consciousness, there is no understanding of anything, even the subjective
all of our conscious experiences are subjective.
Are you familiar with the phrase cogito ergo sum?
Are all of our conscious subjective? I mean, are all of our conscious experiences subjective, sir?
I'm not talking about experience. I'm talking about consciousness. Do you know the difference?
Our conscious experiences are subjective.
I'm talking
It's
about the
different
observer.
for all of us.
don't care how
Objective means independent of mind or stance, and the conscious comes from the mind.
Let's not pivot. Let's
Can you just
concentrate on
prove?
consciousness.
Can you just prove
Jesus.
that the world has intelligence now, and then how you determine that morality is objective from that intelligent world?
Without the objective existence of consciousness, there is no subject. Therefore, there is no subjectivity.
That's a claim. That's a claim.
Do you exist?
Subjectively.
Are you sure that you exist?
No, I'm not sure that we cannot know if we actually exist, right?
Then what are we talking about?
You said that you could prove that morality is objective, and I'm waiting
Yes,
for you to do that.
wait
You're
before
asking me if I
morality.
exist.
You're jumping from one point to another point.
I know.
If you
I keep going back to the objective morality. Prove that morality is objective.
You just pivoted to consciousness, didn't you?
You brought up consciousness. You brought that
Why?
up.
In what context? Why are you?
Don't tell
pivoting?
me that I
Concentrate.
pivoted.
Try to focus.
Do not tell me that I pivoted to consciousness when you brought it up. You brought it up.
Focus. Do you believe
Hold
you
on.
exist?
Hold on. I
Yes.
want you.
Is that objective?
Hold on.
Yes.
Hold on. I want you to concede that I did not
Absolute
pivot.
answer.
Hey.
And you're
listen,
judging Christians' morality
Listen. Relax.
with this substance.
I want you to concede that I did not pivot to consciousness, that you brought consciousness up.
I was talking about ontology, which is human nature, which is reality. And in order to understand reality, what is the foundation, which is consciousness, awareness.
So you brought up consciousness, right? Right?
Does that make you happy?
So yeah, well, you said I pivoted to it, so you lied.
Do you consider yourself a serious individual?
Is lying included in your objective morality?
Do you consider yourself a serious individual?
You said hold on. The guy who claims he has objective morality lied and said that I pivoted to consciousness when he's the one who brought it up. Is lying included in your objective morality, sir, that you get from this intelligible
universe? How would we
universe?
prove that if I lied or not?
Because you said that I did something and I did not do it,
I said we were talking about ontology and you pivoted to
So
consciousness.
are you done lying now?
Right.
Can you stop lying and get back to your objective morality claims?
Why are you trying to get a gotcha moment?
I'm not.
Is that like your ultimate
You just got
goal?
caught lying, and I wanted to point that out. That's all.
Oh man, you're like a teenager in a philosophy class.
Here's a tiny violin until you're done crying.
Is that one of your lines?
It's a little tiny violin until you're done crying. Are you done crying now, sir?
Super TikTok.
Now go ahead and get to your argument for objective morality being true. Go ahead.
Let's establish our terminologies first. Okay. Do you believe you exist, my friend? Yes or no?
I cannot prove that I actually objectively exist. I could be in a vat, right? I could be a brain in a vat. So no, I cannot prove that I actually exist. No.
Then who is the subject making preferences on what is right and what is wrong?
Me.
If you cannot,
it's me.
So are you sure about you to begin with?
No, I'm not. We can never. This is just a waste of time. We cannot be absolutely sure that we're both here, right?
You're the ultimate desert.
Now just
right?
prove that you have objective morality now.
Absolute meaninglessness.
Just prove that you have objective morality now, please.
No problem. I gave you the biological argument for morality.
How does that? That you just claimed that the universe has intelligence. That's a claim. How does therefore morality is objective?
Wait, intelligibility and biology are different things. Why are you mixing up things? Are you being deliberately confusing?
I asked you where you get your objective morality from, and you said the intelligibility of the universe.
I am. Let me make it substantive so you can understand it. I am a biological being, an objective being who has a nature, and that nature can understand reality.
That's a lot of claims. That's a lot of claims. Now, how do you know that morality is objective?
Which part is wrong? Do we have a nature, or yes or no?
The nature is subjective.
What do you mean subjective? You mean you can change it at whim?
Like, I asked you to define nature, and you said, like, people are social animals. Oh, well, that's subjective.
For example, can you change your DNA?
No.
Does your DNA determine your identity?
Sure.
Is that objective or subjective?
I guess that would be objective, but is that a moral?
Wait, before we go to morality, so you do believe in objective nature, right?
I never claimed that I don't believe in anything objective. I said I'm not convinced that objective morals.
You don't even believe you exist, my friend.
I did not say I don't believe I exist. I said I have a justified belief that I exist, but there's no way of absolutely knowing.
Do you see the absolute desert of a mind that you have, and you're talking about God's morality?
Okay.
Can
you please just? You said you can prove
TikTok.
that your morality is objective. Now go for it.
This is TikTok. People, not everyone should have the opportunity to use TikTok. We should have gatekeepers.
Wow. Jesus would be real proud of you.
Satan is morally better than God, and they have zero substance. Do you understand that?
Jesus would be really proud of you. Jesus would be really proud of you for lying.
As if you know Jesus. Do you know Jesus? Do you even know him?
How could I know somebody who's dead?
And how would you know if he would be proud of me or not?
Well, you believe that Jesus is real, right? And do you think he'd be proud of somebody who got caught lying?
Does that mean Jesus is good? If he doesn't like lying?
I don't believe Jesus is real.
Then why the fuck are you using Jesus for standards?
So are you not capable of understanding sarcasm?
Bro, your whole identity is a joke.
Are you not capable of understanding sarcasm?
Absolute clown, universal joker.
So instead of insulting me,
that's Satan to you.
Have I insulted you? Have I insulted you one time? Have I insulted you one time, sir?
Bro, you don't need to. Your mere existence
this is why theists how can you as a theist say that you have morality, that objective morality, and you're just insulting me? Now go ahead and prove that your morality is objective, please.
Bro, you don't exist.
That's a claim. Prove that. Prove that.
It's a ghost. You're a ghost, aren't you?
All right, I think you're just trolling at this point.
Phantasma. You're a joke, man.
Notice how he did not at one point ever attempt to prove that his morality is objective. He's probably trolling, and that's fine. I enjoy a good troll. Hello?
Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good. You say Satan. So you say Satan is morally better than God? Is that what you believe?
Yeah. I
But
think
you
that
don't believe in Jesus.
I think
But you don't believe in Jesus.
I think that the Satan character of the Bible is morally better than the God character.
But you don't believe in Jesus.
No, I don't believe in Jesus, no.
Then how can you believe in Satan?
I don't believe in Satan.
You just think the character of the Bible is better than God.
There you go.
Okay. All right. So how is he better than God morally?
Because Satan never flooded the earth and drowned pregnant women and babies. Satan never commanded that babies be killed in the Amalekites tribes. Satan never said you could have slaves and that you could beat them. Satan never commanded you to throw rocks at your children if you find out they worship other gods.
How is that morally better?
Those things are evil atrocities, and Satan does never ever once do any of those things. God does those things.
How can you say those things are evil?
I can't say that they're objectively evil.
Okay, so your view of morality is through the modern lens, through the contemporary.
I get my morality from I am empathetic of the consequences of my actions.
But you get your morality from you're an American living in the 21st century. That's where your morality comes from. So it's a subjective morality that
Yeah,
is
it's subjective.
of this
It's just my opinion. It's my opinion that
sample.
it's my opinion that the Satan character is morally better than the God character.
Okay, but if you're going, okay, so hold on. You're going just with Bible verses or whatever, with the character in the Bible. And the character in the Bible, the Satan of the Bible, burns people on the lake of fire forever.
Where? What verse? What verse?
But that's the character of the Bible, right?
What,
I don't know
what verse?
I don't know what verse.
Because the only verse that I can see that talks about non-believers going into the lake of fire is what God says will happen in Revelation 21:8.
Yeah, I mean, and Satan is supposed to be the guy that watches the lake of fire, right?
Where does it say that at?
I don't know if it says that in the Bible.
It doesn't.
Probably doesn't.
What's the worst thing Satan ever does in the Bible? He tricks Eve into eating a fruit. What's worse, tricking somebody into eating a fruit or drowning babies? What's worse?
Well, you have to think about the consequences of eating that fruit.
The consequences are that now we know the knowledge of good and evil. God didn't want...
And that's what caused everybody to go to hell so that they could burn on the lake of fire.
Well,
That was the original.
Can you know
action.
love? Can you
That
know
was the original
love without
action
good?
That created the following consequences.
Can you know love without knowing good?
Whoever said love was part of the Garden of Eden?
Can you know love without knowing good?
Whoever said love was a feeling they had in the Garden of Eden. It was just supposed to be paradise. Nobody ever said there was love in there.
Can you know love without feeling good or without knowing good, sir?
You're going to say that you can't have paradise, you can't experience paradise without experiencing love. But that's not in the Bible.
Can you not assume what I'm going to say and just answer the question? Can you know love if you don't have knowledge of good?
I don't know.
You don't know? That seems pretty easy. I mean, how is it possible for you to know what love is if you don't have any knowledge of good?
I've never not had knowledge of good.
Yeah, so can you...
But I think you can, because I think when I was a baby, I loved my mother, and I didn't have knowledge of evil.
How do you know you loved your mother when you were a baby?
Well, so you're going to make up some word for love now? You're going to make up some definition for love?
No,
I can make up a definition for love.
Quit assuming what I'm doing. I'm just literally asking you a question. Like, is love generally good? Right? Love is good, right?
Love is a feeling that we have, but I don't know.
And it's good, right? It's a good feeling.
I don't know if it's morally good.
It's a good feeling. Love is a good feeling. How is this hard? Is love a good feeling? Yes.
Well, it depends on what you call love. Like, as a baby, I loved my mother.
Listen. What I'm trying to say is that Satan told God did not want Adam and Eve to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He didn't want Adam and Eve to know good. He wanted them to be robots. Thanks to Satan, who tricked Adam and Eve into eating the tree of knowledge of good.
See, that's what I.
Hold on. Hold on. No, this is what happens in Genesis.
I already cut you off at the pass, bro.
This is what exactly happens in Genesis.
You're paraphrasing big time. Nobody ever said.
No, I'm not. It's like, how do you not know this? God said, Adam and Eve, do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Then the serpent, aka Satan or whatever, says, no, Eve, if you eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you will know good and evil. So thanks to Satan, I know what's good. We all know what's good now. We know our hobbies, our interests, our
You
love.
also know it's evil.
Yeah, and we also know that too, because how can you know good if you don't know evil, right? So thank you, Satan. Hail Satan. Thank you, Satan, for allowing me to know good. Thank you, Satan, for allowing me to know love.
Between good and evil.
Hail Satan. W666 in the comments.
It was paradise.
God, thank you, Satan, for freeing us from the slavery, robotic slavery under God. God didn't want us to know what was
weak
good.
as fuck, bro. You didn't even provide an argument. I cut you off at the pass, and you failed to overcome that.
You cut me off at the what?
At the pass. I saw where you were going a mile away. I cut you off, and you failed to overcome it. I said we didn't need to eat the fruit, the good of evil, to experience paradise.
I wasn't comparing paradise to love.
You're trying to. You're trying to say
no.
The good.
I didn't. The word paradise never even. The word paradise never even.
Experience good. Your words.
The word paradise never even entered my mind.
You don't have to say that word. I'd say where you're trying to go. You just avoided using it. Anyway, we were in paradise because God created Eden for us. We were in paradise.
Okay.
And that's all we knew was paradise. We didn't know evil. But Satan came down, showed us what good.
And you also didn't know good.
Right. Or evil.
So how can you enjoy paradise if you don't know? How can you enjoy anything if you don't know what good is?
Listen, when you were a baby, which the Garden of Eden represents, like in reality.
Whoa, that's a stretch. Where does it say that the Garden of Eden
It's a
represents
metaphor.
you?
The whole Bible is a metaphor for life. If you open your mind.
The whole Bible is a metaphor?
For life, yeah.
Okay, so Genesis 1:1, that's a metaphor. That didn't actually happen.
The whole Bible is a metaphor.
So
The
Genesis
story
1:1. So Genesis 1:1.
in the Bible probably
So
aren't real.
Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's a metaphor. That didn't happen.
Yeah, it's a metaphor.
So God didn't create the heaven and the earth. Oh, thank you. Got it. God didn't. You guys hear that? God didn't create shit. God didn't create the heavens and the earth. It's a metaphor.
Well, I never said that. The Bible
Is it a metaphor? Is everything in the Bible a metaphor? You said so.
Yeah.
So Genesis 1:1 is a
The whole
metaphor.
Bible is a metaphor. Some of it is factual.
You're an atheist now. You don't believe that God created everything. You just said it was a metaphor. It's not true.
No, I'm not religious. I'm not an atheist either.
But you don't believe God created the heavens and the earth. So where did it come?
I believe God is the heavens and the earth.
What? God is the earth?
Yeah.
So God is like cancer and earthquakes and tsunamis and like
That's
all these.
right.
God
That's
is
right.
God is an evil, destructive force.
All the things that are bad, God is. That is correct. That's where-
God is bad. God is evil. God is evil.
Yeah,
okay, got
that's
it.
right, yeah.
I agree with you.
that's
God is
where-
evil. Yeah,
This is where religion gets it wrong. Like in the Abrahamic religions, they try to say.
yeah. God is evil. I agree. But hey, I'm looking
try
to
to say
people.
God is
I'm just
omnibenevolent.
looking to
God
speak with
isn't.
people who disagree. I'm looking to speak
God
with
isn't
people.
omnibenevolent. No, but I disagree with you.
Well, no, we agree.
Satan-
God's evil. We agree.
Oh, God is not omnibenevolent.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think he's evil.
Well, I don't think he's evil. You're saying he's evil.
You said God is. You said everything that is bad is God.
I say God is everything.
And I said, so like even all the evil destructive forces, and you said, yeah, that's bad. God is bad.
Didn't you just say you can't have evil without good?
You said God was bad. Did you not?
No. Let's go back a minute where you
Wait,
said
if God
you
is
can't
everything,
have-
if God is everything,
have
that
evil
means
without
God
good.
is God the cancer
You said
ward in
you
the
can't
children's
have evil
hospital?
without good. Those were your words. You
Is
can't have
God
evil without good.
is God the cancer ward in the children's hospital?
You see, listen to me.
Is God? You said God is everything. Is God the cancer ward in the children's hospital? Is God that? Is God that?
Bro, quit trying to underphrase what I've said. I
Hey,
said God is
I'm just
everything.
trying to.
I said God
I'm
is
trying to
everything.
clarify your position. I'm trying to clarify your position.
Yeah,
You said
God is
you-
everything. God
So
is
does it,
everything.
so that does that everything? Does that include the cancer ward in the children's hospital?
Well, would that be a part of everything?
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?
Okay, then the answer is yes to that. It's
So
obvious.
God is literally
Right?
child cancer. God, your God is child
Yes.
cancer.
Yes. No, quit fucking running. and answer
Now
the
wait,
question.
Why do you
said-
bow down and wait? Why do you bow
you
down
said
and worship?
God is good. You said you can't have.
Why
evil
do you
without
why do you
good.
bow down and worship child cancer?
You said you can't have evil without good.
Why do you
Is
get
that
on your
right?
knees? Why do
Is
you
that
get on your
right?
knees and worship child cancer?
Why are you refusing to answer that simple question? You're choosing
Why do
to
you?
acknowledge that you
Why
said
do you?
you can't have evil
Wait,
without good.
I'll answer it. I'll answer it. But I
Are you
just want to know.
Are you afraid to acknowledge
wanna know-
that? You said you can't have evil without good. Now you're afraid to acknowledge what you already said. You already said that.
Look, I'll answer it, but I just want to know why do you worship child cancer?
Listen, you can't have evil without good.
Why do you? I'm gonna address that. I just want to know why you worship
the
child
good
cancer.
and evil only exists when you compare them to each other.
Sir, why do you?
So I
worship,
never said God was evil. I said
Why
God
do
was
you
everything.
worship child
Why are
cancer?
you refusing to let me answer your goddamn question?
Answer it.
Are you afraid
Answer
of
it.
me? Are you afraid
Why
of
do
me?
you?
You
Why do
afraid
you
of my
worship?
words?
Why do you worship child cancer?
Because I
Answer that.
prove you wrong? Is that why you're afraid?
One last time. Why do you worship child cancer?
Why are you trying to pivot?
Okay, I'm just gonna move on. Then you're not gonna answer the question. Bro, literally worships child cancer. Like, what the fuck? He said God is everything, and I said, does that include the cancer ward in the children's hospital? Yeah, that's God. What the fuck? Why do you worship child cancer? I can't do this anymore, guys. I can't do this anymore. Keep spamming those likes, everybody. I appreciate you guys hanging out here. Thank you for spamming the shares and everything. And thank you for the gifts. Hello? Hello, Jaden? Are you there? We can't hear you, Jaden. Jaden, we can hear you, but I can hear you, but I don't know if you can hear me. Maybe try to send another guest request. Try to send another guest request if you want to, but I couldn't. I could hear you, but I don't know if you could hear me. He said, "Hold on." Oh, you guys could hear him? I couldn't hear him. Thanks for the shares, Nico. Appreciate that. So yeah, Satan is morally better than God. That's for sure. If I'm reading the Bible, I'm looking at this thing, I'm going, this seems like an interesting book. Let me read it. Whoa, the God character he's a real jerk. The God character is a real jerk. He's misogynist. He's a bloodthirsty maniac. And what's the Satan character do? What does he do? He gets beat off out of heaven by God. He tricks Eve into eating from a fruit. I mean, that's it. I can't imagine living in these times, being an ancient Hebrew Israelite. Imagine, just picture this for a second, guys. Imagine you're in this time period of the world, right? You're an ancient Israelite, a Hebrew Israelite, and you find out that your daughter or your son has been worshiping another god. You find that out. And imagine how heartbroken you must be to find that out, because now you know what you have to do, right? You have to literally bury her up to her waist, and then you and a bunch of your other people gather around her and you throw rocks at her. You throw stones at your child. What a gruesome, grotesque, brutal, violent way to go. That has got to be one of the worst ways to go. And this is coming from God. This is this all good, all loving God. This is what he commands. Imagine how heartbroken you would be in those time periods when you find out that your wife, the love of your life, she is your wife, and you love her so much, and you find out she's been worshiping other gods, and now you have to kill her. That's barbaric. That is fucking barbaric. A God of love, a truly all good, truly loving God would not command that. These are the commands of ancient barbaric people. The Bible is not the word of a loving God. It's the word of ancient barbarians. This Bible is bullshit. This book is nonsense. And for you to sit here in 2024 and claim that your morality comes from this book, that you get your morality from these ancient barbarians that would stone their children to death if they found out they had a different belief system, is crazy. It's crazy. It is crazy. I was just thinking about that the other day. Just imagine being in this time period and having to do the things that is commanded in this book. And then what happens if you didn't do it? What happens to you if you don't do it? You get killed, right? If you don't follow God's laws or God's commands. What happens to you? Does it even say in the Bible anywhere? Like, what if somebody says, you know what? No, I'm not going to kill my son or kill my daughter because they're worshiping other gods. I'm not going to do it. What happens to you? Does anybody know? If Justin's in here, maybe he knows. I don't know. Does it what happens? Like, what if you say, you know what? No, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do this shit. I'm not gonna throw rocks at my daughter or my son until they're no longer breathing. What happens to you? How do you request to join? Click the little blue and pink person icon. There's like a little icon down there. It says guests. It's like blue and pink. You get killed yourself. Yeah, I figured that's probably what happened, but... So then, like, what are you supposed to do? You know? I wonder how many people were like, I'm not doing it. You're going to have to kill me too. I wonder how many people did that. Hello?
Hello.
Hello, are you 18 plus?
Yeah, I'm 18.
All right. What you got for us?
So, what do you define God? Like, I define God as like the highest being ever, like a perfect being. Like, that's what I define God. Would you say like otherwise?
Well, I'm not convinced that any gods exist, but if your definition of God is that it's the highest being, couldn't I just say that, well, I think the highest being is my dog, and like my dog is God?
I guess you could say that, but like I think we're referring to like the Christian God, right? Because like we're going off the Bible because you use like Bible verses and stuff.
Okay.
All right, so if God is like, how do I put this? Because the way I see God, he's like perfect, right? He's like the greatest, right? So if he's perfect, right? And I think you could agree too, because we're using the Bible. If he's perfect and he's the greatest, he would also have like perfect morals, right? And I feel like there's like nothing out there that has better morals than a God who's perfect.
The Bible itself says that God is not perfect. In Genesis 6:6, the God is sorry that he did something. He made a mistake, so he regretted making us, and he flooded the earth and drowned everyone. A perfect being would not do that. A perfect being would have no regrets, no mistakes.
I guess that is a good point. I think more of like he was sorry for like what their actions have become. Like how do you say, like when you feel sorrow towards something, like oh I'm sad to see how these people were like have turned out, right? Even though he knew it was gonna happen, right? He saw their actions, like how they played out, right? And he saw that they were corrupt and ended up like having to flood the earth, to get rid of the evil and then start brand new.
But even then, that wouldn't make sense that God is perfect, because how can God be perfect and then have sorrow over something that he knew was going to happen?
What do you mean? Like he could, because like
a perfect being would entail that he has knowledge of all things too. He's perfect, right? Well, I guess not. Maybe not. But a perfect being wouldn't have sorrow, because he would have made humanity perfect in the first place, and it would not have failed him.
I mean, no, he knew what they were going to do, right? It still made him sad, right? Because like, think about it like this. God is like a personal being. He has like feelings, right? So like he felt sad, like he felt sorrow, like that these people became like corrupt and stuff like that. That's what he means.
How are you sorry for something that you created to do exactly what you created it to do?
No, he created like people like with the purpose, right? Of like, oh, they would follow him, right? But hold on.
All right, let's bring somebody else up here. Hello?
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. Yeah, no, I think the Christian God is morally ambiguous, completely. I mean, and not ambiguous when it's clear that immorality has taken place from supposedly the most perfect being, probably the most beautiful being, right? Probably beauty itself in a way.
You think the God of the Bible is a beautiful being?
No, I don't personally.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. I'm sorry.
I was just saying that morality in the Bible seems many times ambiguous to even very obviously immoral. And for a perfect being to, to be able to do such terrible things, or Yeah, I just think it's absurd. I think the amount of spiritual work people are doing to ignore reality. I mean, it's almost as if God was this mysterious, that he could get away with unaliving an entire group of people, or at least inciting it, right? Or condoning slavery, or, all these other really terrible things, like potentially condoning the stoning of your children for having different beliefs. It really almost speaks to the impossibility of humanity to have morality. Because if there's something potentially good in value of those decisions, then, possibly like what we know as being terrible is almost our inability to even identify morality. I that's all I could come up with, just listening to, people that I think are religious attempting to do the spiritual work of, trying to justify these really horrendous acts, and pretending as if there's something behind the curtain that is like morally sort of the most just. It's great. It's great.
Well, yes, it kind of sounds like you sort of agree with me, and I'm just, but I'm looking to speak to people who disagree. But I appreciate you coming up here, Matthew. Thank you.
I just want to tell you I appreciate you. Peace.
Yeah, you too, man. Have a good one. Guys, if you're a Christian, go ahead and send a guest request. If you're 18 plus and you're a Christian, go ahead and send a guest request. Hello, Josh.
Hey,
What's up, Joyful? How you doing, Joyful? I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Good. Are you 18 plus?
Yeah, I'm well over 18.
All right. What you want to talk about?
I guess this prompt you got up here says Satan is morally better than God.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read the Bible?
Yeah.
Well, God is a good guy and Satan's a bad guy. So
that's not the way I come away with it after reading it. I see the God character of the Bible drowning babies, allowing slavery, commanding you to kill your children if they worship other gods, saying you can capture women in war and force them to be your wives and grape them. And I'm trying to find out what the worst thing the Satan character ever does, and the only thing he does I can see is trick Eve into eating a piece of fruit.
Okay. Well, see, you're not starting from the beginning here, okay? Because in the beginning, God was all alone, right? He's forever and always existed. So in the beginning, he made a bunch of angels to be his friends, and but they were like, he was like, I'm still the most powerful one, and you still have to do everything I tell you to do, and if you don't, and the devil was like, no, I want to be the most powerful one, and then that was wrong, because God was the most powerful one, and so God sent him to hell.
But wanting to be more powerful, is that really that wrong? Is that worse than drowning a baby?
Well,
I'm not saying
God.
Satan.
You can't beat God.
I'm not saying Satan's perfect. I'm saying, yeah, maybe Satan's bad too, but he's not. He's morally better than God, I would say. Like you're saying, what's the worst thing Satan's ever done? You're saying the worst thing he's ever done is he wanted to be more powerful.
Well, more powerful than God, yeah.
That's the worst thing he's ever done, is he wants to be more powerful than God. That's worse than what God has done, like drown babies and command you to kill your children and stuff like that. That's worse than wanting to be more powerful. I mean, wanting to be more powerful is worse than that.
Well, if God can do whatever he wants. He's God, okay? You can't question.
But what's worse though? What's worse? Is wanting to be more powerful worse than drowning babies?
Well, let's put it like this: if you wanted to drown babies and I wanted to be more powerful than anyone else on earth, right?
Which is worse? Which one's worse?
You would be worse. But you're not. But you're not God,
right? Right. Drowning babies is worse than wanting to be more powerful. I agree. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Satan's is morally better than God.
Right, but God knows everything, including how drowning babies can be good. You just don't know how drowning babies can be good because you're not God.
God knows everything, including that drowning babies is good.
Yeah, he knows when drowning babies is good and when it's wrong. You know what I'm saying? Just like I wouldn't encourage anybody to hit someone, but if they were defending themselves And
How could it ever be possibly good to drown a baby?
just whenever God decides it is.
So whatever God decides is good is good.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So
He made everything.
if God decided to come down on the earth and rape all the 5-year-olds, that would be good.
If it was God, it'd be better than Satan trying to overthrow him, right?
What? So you're saying it's worse for Satan? You're saying Satan trying to overthrow God is worse than God deciding to come down and rape 5-year-olds?
Well, I mean, yeah, because God would know when it was good. You know what I'm saying?
My fuck! Why would you subscribe to a religion where you have to do this, Josh? Where you have to like say the words that are coming out of your mouth?
Well, what do you mean? You're acting like it was a choice or something. I can't ignore the fact that God exists.
You just said that it would be good if God decided to come down and rape 5-year-olds, and that
now
Satan
you're making it seem worse than what I said. Okay, what I said was
that's exactly what you said.
God knows everything in the whole entire universe. So even when we might think are bad or good. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes things that you think are bad most of the time, there's like a 1 in a million times where it's actually good.
Right, and you said that whatever God decides is good, right?
Yeah.
So if God decided to come down and start raping 5-year-olds, that would be good.
If he decided to do that, he would be doing it the one time out of a billion, million, trillion times.
It would be good to you. In your worldview, that would be good. Oh yeah, that's fucking crazy. Why would you believe in this religion that makes you say what you're saying right now, Josh? This is fucking crazy. Do you hear what you just said?
Well, because
you just said that if 5-year-olds were raped, it'd be good if it was God.
Because I grew up in America, and all my friends and my parents and my grandparents were Christian.
Satan would never do that. Satan would never rape a 5-year-old. Therefore,
and
Satan
I never
is more
questioned
better
it.
than God.
I just decide that everything else should be based on, what my grandparents and my parents told me.
Have your grandparents ever told you that? Your grandparents told you that if God decided to come down and rape 5-year-olds, it'd be good?
No, they just told me that, God, you can't question God.
Sure you can. You can absolutely question God.
So you're going to tell me when the Pharaoh was keeping all of God's people in slavery and he killed all those children to free them, that was bad?
It was bad to kill children, yes. What'd the children do?
They were born into slave-keeping families. They were going to grow up to be slave keepers.
So your all-good God punishes children for the crimes of their parents?
It worked, didn't it?
Is that the only way your God could have accomplished something?
I don't know. There's probably other options, but that option
there
worked.
You go. There would have been there would have been a way moral route to go to do that, right?
But what if it wasn't good enough and they just enslaved another people? The way God did it, after he freed the slaves, they didn't enslave any more people. So the way God did it worked really well.
Yeah, but he could have just snapped his fingers and all of a sudden Pharaoh would have let the slaves go. He didn't have to to come down. God did not have to come down and kill all the firstborn children. He could have literally snapped his fingers or he could have made a piece of toast and that would have been good enough to have Pharaoh let the Israelites go.
Well, okay, I see what you're saying, but then what about free will? See, God gave us free will.
What about the free will of all the firstborns?
Well, I mean, they weren't using their free will.
Come on, they were kids. They were babies. What about the free will of the 5-year-olds that God would come down and rape and you said would be good?
They don't have free will yet. They're kids.
The 5-year-old doesn't have free will in your worldview?
Not if God doesn't want them to.
So if they don't have free will, that means that they can't consent? Wait, hold on. If they don't have free will, that makes it okay for God to rape them?
Only if God wants to.
Oh my! What in the fuck is happening? Who are you, Josh? Are you a real person?
What do you think? I'm AI?
I think I'm done talking to you. I'm sick to my stomach right now. This is why I stopped going live. I can't deal with this. That's an actual person that's living on the same planet as me at the same time. And for all I know, that could be my neighbor. For all I know, that guy is living right next door to me. And he thinks that if God decided to come down and rape 5-year-olds, it'd be okay. Because it's God.
Yo,
how you doing?
yeah, Skits, bro. That was I think I'm gonna go back to the comments, bro. That was a lot right there, bro.
All right, bro. I know. There's no words. There's no fucking words, dude. There's literally no fucking words.
Yeah, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I saw your prompt.
Okay.
Are you an atheist?
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't believe in any type of higher being, God, moral objectivity, right? I guess.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that any of those things exist. Yeah.
So you believe more so. I just want to clarify your position. You believe more so like subjective morality?
Yeah, I think that. I think that morality is just everyone's own subjective opinion.
So my opinion versus yours versus what that guy says, right? The last guy.
Yeah.
So none of us are basically right.
Objectively, yeah, that's what I think. Like, I would hope that we both agree that rape is wrong, right? But I can't prove that it's objectively wrong to rape, independent of mind and stance. All I can say is that it's wrong to me. And obviously it's not wrong to everybody because some people do it, so.
Okay, so I just want to clarify. So you feel, I agree with you, but for your point of view, you say that is, can I even say that word on here?
Yeah, I guess we should be saying grape, but I sometimes forget. Okay. So yeah, you can say grape if you want, or it don't matter.
Yeah. So you feel that grape is wrong because you feel like it's wrong. I believe it's wrong. But you're telling me you can't tell me otherwise because it's not necessarily objective, right? So some Joe Schmo says grape is right. He can grape as much as he wants, and there's nothing you can really say to that guy.
He can, but it would be wrong to me. And to a whole lot of other.
But not wrong to him. But not wrong to him, right?
Right. It's not wrong to him.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you a Christian?
Yeah.
I would argue that you can't even say that grape is morally wrong objectively, because I would interpret Deuteronomy 21:10-14, where God says it's totally fine to do that.
Deuteronomy
21:10-14.
Let me see what that is.
It's where God says that if in a time of battle, you can capture a woman if you think she's beautiful and desire her for a wife. After you kill her parents, you can take her to your house and let her mourn for her dead parents for 30 days. And then you cut off her hair and her clothes. And then after 30 days, you go into her and make her your wife. And she's been captured.
So Deuteronomy 10, chapter... chapter 10.
No, Deuteronomy 21.
Oh, my bad. 21. Let me see that.
10-14.
20.
Or 15,
I haven't
whatever.
I read this in a while. Let me read it real quick.
It says, when you go out to war against your enemies and the Lord your God hands them over to you and you take them captive, suppose you see among the captives a beautiful woman whom you desire and want to marry. You can bring her home to your house, and you shall shave her head and pare her nails, discard her captive's garb, and remain in your house a full month, mourning for her father and mother. After that you may go into her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. But if you are not satisfied with her, you shall let her go free, and certainly not sell her for money. You must not treat her as a slave, since you have dishonored her. So I would consider that grape, because
delete her and then she'll set her free. Wait, so you think this is immoral right here, right?
Yeah, I think it's wrong to capture women and force them to be your wives. Yeah. But your
Well,
God
you know,
said, your God says it's okay. Your God says you're allowed to do this. So
hear me out.
Hear me out.
Hear me out. I've heard these verses in the past. I've heard some scholars speak on these verses. I don't know if you ever looked into what the scholars say.
Would you consider this a woman in this scenario? Would you consider her to be captured and raped?
Could I break down what I remember the scholars saying before I give the answer? Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So you gotta. From what I remember reading, it's been a long time, but you gotta understand the times. So the Israelites were God's set apart people, right? God's holy people. He chose them out of the nations, all the nations of the world, and he's obviously given them the laws and commands and rules. So you gotta understand this is Near Eastern times, Middle Eastern times. I think this is written around 1000 BCE, maybe. Don't quote me on that. So there was no social programs, there were no internet, no hotlines, no. How can I say it? My point is, if like in this instance, if you got defeated in battle, right? You got laid to waste. You be on your own, like these women, right? And
hold on. I know where you're going with this. You're going to say that they couldn't have.
Am I wrong?
You're saying that they couldn't have just let her go, right?
I mean, they could have.
Yeah, they could have. They could have let her go.
For her to survive, she would need, especially in this time period. Women are more independent now, which I mean I have no problem with. But
hold on, hold on. They could have just let her go, right? Instead of capturing her and raping her, right?
Well, I don't necessarily agree with the grape part.
Okay, that's why I asked you. Do you agree? Do you think that a woman that is in this scenario here has she been captured and raped?
Can I finish my answer? I'll explain. I'm almost done.
Okay.
So my point was this. So they just laid waste to this village or town, whatever. God commanded them to take them out. And there's these women left behind, right? These women relied on their male patriarch to survive, get provided for, defense. So now they're left alone, right? So God, it seems like, from what I remember, says you could take a wife, you could take one of the captive's wives, husbands that perished or whatever, bring her to your home. The reason they shave their head and trim their nails, I remember that's like a form of mourning. So
no, they shave their heads to demoralize them, and they cut their nails so that they can't scratch you while you're trying to grape them.
I can find it, bro. I was reading that before.
Listen. They could have just let them go. They could have said, "Here's some food. Here's some supplies. You're free to go." And you cannot say, "Well, no, they couldn't just let them go," because in verse 14 it says that you can let her go if you're not satisfied with her. You shall let her go free. So that means that in the very beginning, they could have just let them go. Now, will you answer, if your mother, for example, if your mother was the woman in this scenario, has your mother been captured and raped?
Do I have to answer the hypothetical?
It's not a hypothetical. This is the story in the Bible.
Well, remember what I said, bro. This is different times.
Okay, and in this time, has your mother been captured and raped? If she's in this passage here, this story.
I'll just be reasonable with you. From your line of thinking, yeah, it seems like it, but I gotta look more into this passage because I don't understand the times too well.
Is God's morality bound by the time period?
Well, I've been learning with my friends that God meets people where they're at. So you gotta understand this. During this time, there was kidnapping. There was.
Is God's morality bound by time periods?
I would say no, but you have to hear me out. He meets people where they're at. So
if God's morality, if God's morality is not bound by the time periods, that means that if God says that this is morally permissible, that means that it's always morally permissible, which means it doesn't matter if it was back then. God says that it's morally permissible to capture a woman in war and take her to your house, and after 30 days you go into her and make her your wife. You're telling me you don't know. You have to look into this more. You can't tell me right now if that's grape or not, can you?
Well, bro, I'm not being delusional. I see where your thinking is coming from that 21st, Judeo-Christian mindset. But I know you're not Christian, but I'm just saying. I want to look in.
We can figure out whether this was grape or not right now. Has this woman consented? Has this woman consented to this?
But do you see how you're viewing it from a 21st century mindset? Be honest.
What other viewpoint am I supposed to look at it? What other viewpoint am I supposed to look at it?
Well, that's my point. Like, I really should have looked into this more. I didn't have time, but I wanted to see how the Near Eastern.
This is what God says is morally permissible.
Is 1000 BC culture the same as 21st century culture?
Is God's morality bound by cultures?
But you have to hear me out. God meets people where they're at. Like, there's a perfect standard God has, but he'll usher it in a certain way.
Is God's morality bound by people's cultural traditions?
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying God.
It does not matter what the culture is. It does not matter what the time period is. All that matters is that this is what God says is morally permissible, allowed to do. That's all that matters.
Let me ask you this, bro. If these verses weren't in the Bible, would you become a Christian then?
No, even if you were to prove that this Christian God exists to me, I would never worship this God.
Because of these verses?
Because of not just this one in particular, no, but a lot of them, yeah.
Like what else? Because I don't want to sound too uninformed. Like there's scholars that have written about these things. I should have.
If it's true that God created everything, if it's true that God created the world and how the world works, including tsunamis, hurricanes, tornadoes, natural disasters. If it's true that God created the world and how the world works, I would not worship that God because that's unnecessary suffering. The tsunamis and the hurricanes and tornadoes, 100,000 people die a year from natural disasters. And if it's true that God created the world and the way that the world works, then he's responsible for those natural disasters. I would not worship this God. I would say, fine, he's real. If you were to convince me that the God's real, I would say, fine, he's real. I acknowledge his existence, but I would not worship or want to be a part of him.
So let me ask you. So you would say that hurricane? I want to steel man your argument, bro. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth or try to answer something that's not what you're asking. So the hurricanes you brought up. I know we just had some hurricanes. I don't know where you live, but we just had some hurricanes in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Tornadoes, you said, earthquakes,
right?
Natural disasters, right? So you're saying those things are evil, right?
I'm saying that if God created the world and how the world works, that means that he's responsible for those things. When he didn't have to make a world where those things happen, but he chose to make a world where those things happen. I have a problem with that God, and I would not worship that God.
But my point was that are those things evil?
Subjectively, to me, yeah.
Okay, so all right. So obviously, there's things that are. You just said you would want.
Well,
God
actually,
to make a world.
let me answer that differently. I wouldn't say that natural disasters are evil. I would say that if it's true that a God created them, I would say that that is I would say it's unnecessary suffering, which would be evil to me.
Okay, so there's certain worlds and certain things and scenarios that are obviously good, right? To contrast to evil, right? There's things that you would want to see in the world that are obviously good and not evil. I'm assuming, right?
Okay.
You would agree to that?
Okay.
You would agree? All right. So if evil and good exist, then there has to, like, bro, if you're following me, if you're being honest, there has to be some type of law to distinguish between evil and what's good, or good, vice versa, good and evil. You have to be able to distinguish.
Why couldn't God have created a universe where we all just are good and there's no evil?
But I could get to that, but can you answer my second question? Like, if evil, like you said exists, suffering bad, right? Then there obviously has to be good on the other side. So how do we delineate? How do we tell this is good? Or like you said in Deuteronomy, right? This is bad. How do we tell? Like, how can you? How can we?
How do I tell?
Yeah, you could use your own
for my own subjective preferences of what's good and bad.
So there's no law to tell whether something is like natural disasters or whatever. The great, like you say, right, in Deuteronomy is wrong versus.
Yeah, I don't think that I don't think that it's subjectively. I don't know if I have yet to hear or find a way for me to believe that it's subjectively wrong, independent of mind and stance. Those things to me are just my subjective opinion. It's just wrong to me. And you asked You asked me what would it take for me to worship this. Essentially, you said, well, if these verses weren't here, why would you still not worship this God? And one of the reasons is because
I said would you? I said would you?
Would I? No, I would not. Even if these verses were not here, I would still not worship this God, because if it's true, yeah, that's
you did
why.
answer me. You did. You said no. You said no, right? But I kind of shifted because I wanted to break this down a little more. Because you said you can't know for sure, independent of yourself, whether something is evil and good. Like you don't really have
objectively
a measure. Okay, so you do realize you can't necessarily, even to that last guy that you said you didn't. It seemed like you didn't agree with. You can't even tell him though that Deuteronomy, what was it? Deuteronomy,
Yes,
whatever
I can.
chapter it was.
I can say it's wrong. It's wrong to me. It's my subjective opinion that it's wrong. But you can't even say that. You cannot even say that this is objectively wrong. You have to say that this is objectively morally permissible, because your God says that the Israelites are allowed to do this.
Wait, we're shifting a little bit. I just want to stay here. So my point is this: from your own independent. I should say independent. No, it is independent.
Why is this so hard for you? You keep asking me the same thing. It's my opinion. It's my opinion. It's my opinion.
I'm trying to show you how you can't really even bring it up to other people.
Yes, I can. I can say this is wrong to me. This is wrong to me. Yes, I can say that.
But why let somebody know that when you know you can't substantiate it?
I don't have to substantiate it. I don't have to be able to substantiate it in order to give my opinion. And the reason I use these verses against you people like you who think that your objective morality comes from God, I use these verses because now you have to say this is good, when everyone else would say no, that's wrong. You shouldn't be capturing women and raping them. But you have to say that, yeah, that's good. And if you're not going to immediately say it's good, you're going to try to make excuses for it. Well, the time periods. The cultures.
I wouldn't say excuses, bro. I try to be fair. I don't know the ultimate immediate historical context. That's why I wanted to look into the scholars. I don't know if you have. Maybe not. The context is that the Lord says that when you go out to war against your enemies, and if you among the captives you see a beautiful woman, you're allowed to capture her and take her to your house and wait 30 days for her to mourn for her parents, and then you can go into her and make her your wife. There's no consent here. She's been captured. There's no consent. That is rape. You said, well, I don't know if it's grape. I have to look at it. I have to study it. We can figure that out if it's grape or not right now. Has the woman consented? Can I just show you how that's like faulty a little bit? Let me just give you an example. So be patient with me, bro. I think I've been pretty patient with you. So let's say there's two people, right? I'm not going to give you all the context. This is my point, right? We got two people fighting each other, right? One person's punching the guy in the face. The other person's punching him in the face. The other person's swinging a kick, hit him in the, they're fighting, right? Kicks, punches, bear hugs, all that, this, that, and the third. Is that right or wrong?
It depends. Like me personally,
you see what I'm saying?
Can I answer? I don't think that was nowhere near the gotcha that you think it is. You're asking me. You're asking me that if two people are fighting, is that wrong?
Well, yeah, I was saying they're punching each other.
To me, it depends. Is it a sanctioned fight? Is it a UFC fight? Is it a bar fight? Is it somebody fighting with a home intruder? You have to be more. You have to be more generalized with this. You can't just say, "Oh, two people fighting." Is that wrong? And when I say, "Well, it depends," you have to.
Well, I gave you the context, right? Like, I mean, I didn't give you
two people fighting. That's not context.
Let me finish, bro. I misspoke, bro. I misspoke. So I just told you, just like you said in Deuteronomy, I forget the chapter, but we're reading it plainly, right? As it is. This is what happens, right? So I just gave you plainly what I'm describing, but I wanted to say this was a UFC match. This is the context, right?
That's okay. So the context is that it's a UFC match, and you want me to know know if I think that's wrong.
No, my point is that's why I was trying to tell you from the beginning. I didn't even want to speak on it. I saw you go to it with the other guy. I was like, he'll probably go to it with me too. But my point is, I wanted to know what the immediate context of everything in this time period was.
I gave you the context.
A better understanding of what's going on.
I gave you the context. The context is that these are the rules and regulations from God regarding female captives. And the Lord says regarding the female captives, When you go out to war against your enemies and the Lord your God hands them over to you and you take captives, suppose you see among the captives a beautiful woman whom you desire and want to marry, you can take her to your house and let her mourn for her parents for 30 days and then you go into her. That is the context. This is the instructions and regulations that God puts in place regarding female captives. You didn't give me any context when you asked me about two people fighting.
Well, bro, that's my point. Like, I was trying to show you, like, I need more. We're reading this thing in a vacuum.
No, I literally just gave you all the context you need. That's the context of the story.
That's all the context I need. I wanted to know more about the culture at the time, more about the people, more about the because it's obviously different from the 21st century. So I wanted to know more.
Is learning more about the culture of the Hebrew Israelites going to help you determine whether or not this woman consented to being captured?
Consented to being captured?
Is there any consent here? That's what I keep trying to. We can figure this out whether that's grape or not right now. Did the woman consent?
Again, you're using 21st century terms, man.
Did the woman consent?
I'm not going to answer.
You're not going to answer because you're cooked.
No, like I said,
you're not going to answer because you're cooked. Imagine asking a person, hey, a woman who was captured, did she consent? I'm not going to answer. You know, like when God says you can capture a woman, did that woman consent to it? I'm not going to answer. That's worse than answering, actually.
Hello?
Hello, how you doing?
Hi. Yeah, I just want you to know a lot of people that I've heard come in here just don't know what they're really talking about. It sounds like they don't really like have a spiritual aspect to their life and talk to Jesus every day. I just want to throw this out there. So you say Satan is morally better than God, but you do understand that even the Bible says that Satan is the God of this current world, right?
I'm not saying that I think Satan's good. I'm saying that I think Satan's better than God. Satan's probably evil too, but what's the worst thing Satan ever did? Trick Eve into eating a fruit?
I mean, he tries to convince people to do evil things constantly every day, but
like, where's that at in the Bible? Where's that in the Bible at?
I mean, it's literally described as
where,
like in multiple verses. Well, let me tell you this. So,
what verse?
Who do you think Jesus is?
What verse?
But who do you think Jesus is?
What verse for the claim you just made?
It doesn't matter what verse.
I'd like a verse. I'd like you said Satan deceives people into doing evil things.
I'm trying to tell you.
What's the verse?
Is. It doesn't matter what verse there is. I'm trying to tell you.
So you don't. So you don't have a verse.
So you don't want to hear about Jesus.
No, I don't believe in Jesus.
But Jesus is the example that the Creator in heaven sent down to us.
Is Jesus God?
He is the morally right example of what a God should be. Because, I mean, you want to blame hurricanes and all that on the Father in heaven. That's not his fault.
Is Jesus the God? Is Jesus the God of the Holy Bible?
He's not the God of this world currently.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you.
Well, I'll give you a verse to read. Read this.
Hold on. I just asked you a question.
What was the question? I mean, dude, listen. I don't know every single particular verse that talks about how the heart just.
I didn't ask you for a verse. I know
the Bible says that.
I didn't ask you for a verse. I just asked you a question about Jesus.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
is Jesus the God of the Holy Bible?
I wouldn't particularly say he is the main character of the Bible. I would say Satan.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you if Jesus is the God of the Holy Bible.
Look, I know what you're going to try to say. You're going to try to say that Jesus.
Can you answer the question? Can you answer the question? Can you answer the question?
I'm trying to answer it. If you'd stop interrupting.
It's a yes or no. Is Jesus the God of the Holy Bible?
I mean, yes, but the thing is that the whole grape and slavery thing is not what Jesus stands for, and that's what you keep mixing up.
So did you say yes? Jesus is the God of the Holy Bible?
Yes, but he's not the God of this world.
Okay, if Jesus is the God of the Holy Bible, does that mean that Jesus is the God of the Old Testament?
Jesus was never in the Old Testament. He was in the New Testament.
I didn't ask you that.
No.
If Jesus is the God of the Holy Bible, does that mean that Jesus is the God of the Old Testament?
No, he wouldn't be the God of the Old Testament.
Okay, so in Genesis 1:1, when it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth," when it says God there, is that Jesus or no?
That's technically just the Father in heaven. You have the Father in heaven. You have the Son of the Father in heaven.
So Jesus is not God then.
He is the Son of God.
So he's not God.
I mean, he's not our interpreted creator. He's just the head example of what.
Because I asked you,
wanted us to be as humans.
I asked you if Jesus was the God of the Holy Bible. You said yes. And then when I asked you if he's the God mentioned in Genesis, you said no. So is Jesus God or not?
I just told you he is the Son of the Father in heaven. He's not the exact creator.
So Jesus is not God.
He's not the God of this world. No.
I didn't ask you that.
But
I
as the Holy Bible in the New Testament, I mean, yes, he is. Just
let's try this again. Let's try this again. Is
Why
Jesus?
you just keep interrupting me, bro?
Is Jesus the God of the Holy Bible?
Not the whole Bible. No, he was only mentioned in the New Testament.
Okay, so
He's never mentioned in the Old Testament.
So when I asked you if Jesus is the God of the Holy Bible, and earlier you said yes, now you're saying no.
Because I mean, everyone just wants to just bash Jesus for no real reason when they don't.
So
have
earlier when I said
when I said
Jesus was the God of the Holy Bible, you said yes, but now you're saying no.
I said he is the God of the New Testament, not the Old Testament.
No, I asked you, is Jesus the God of the Holy Bible? You said yes, and now you're saying no.
Okay, but what are you trying to argue about that? Like, it's not really anything relevant, really. Like,
It's just pointing out that you're just not really making any sense. I'm pointing out that you said yes, and now you're saying no, which leads me to believe that you don't really know what the fuck you're talking about. And when you first came up here, the first thing you said was that, listen, everybody who's been coming up here, they don't really know what they're saying. They don't really know what they're talking about. And then literally 5 minutes later, you said yes to one thing, and then you said no to the exact same thing. So who's really the one who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about? Sounds like it was you.
Yo, what's up, bro?
Yo, how you doing?
What's up, bro? How's your day going so far?
I'm having some fun. How you doing?
I hope you have a good day. I'm having a good day. You know, it's chilling. Did you see that new Terrifier movie?
No.
Oh man, I think I'm gonna go watch it, bro. Like, it looks pretty entertaining.
All right, fire, man. Make sure you get some popcorn.
You know it. So what are you speaking?
I think we'll take one more guest here, guys. One last guest here, and then I don't know if Joel's still live, but we can go raid Joel.
Yo, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, and you?
I'm good, thank you.
Cool. So I've been listening, and you clearly haven't done research about Deuteronomy. Literally just cherry picking Deuteronomy and saying, "Oh, this is how I see it." Therefore, that's the context of it. By just reading a passage doesn't provide context. If you want context, you could first take a look at
which passage? Which passage?
First go Deuteronomy 21 verse 10. So if you want context, I can give you the historical context.
What's the context that justifies capturing women? Go ahead.
So, it's quite a lot of different contexts, but one, for example, is what you first have to understand is God's plan, and you don't know what God's plan and purpose is. God's plan and purpose was in the Old Testament.
So the context is we don't know God's plan. That's it. That's
Listen, I'm explaining the context to you. Like the context, if you don't know,
the context is that the context is that we don't know what God knows. That's it.
No, that's part of the reason why you don't understand the context, because you don't know what God knows.
So the context is we don't know. That's your context?
No. What I'm saying is
you just said I'm missing context. Hold on. You said I'm missing hold on. You said I'm missing context. And I said, okay, give me the context. And you said the context is we don't know. We don't know what God knows. So you don't fucking know the context either.
No, I'm explaining that's the context.
The context is we don't know. That's the context.
No, I'm saying God's plan.
Here's what you just did. 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 Here's what you just no. Here's what you just did. This is what you just did. Hey, guy. Hey, you don't know the context. You don't know the context. I'm going to give you the context. Okay, what's the context? This is what you just did. Hey, you don't know the context. Okay, give me the context. The context is we don't know what God knows, so we don't know the context. What? You just came up here to tell me that you also as well don't know the context? You just came in here to tell me that you also don't know the context.
The historical context. Well, you say you know the context, but do you know why the Old Testament was written?
Because a bunch of ancient barbarians wrote some laws so they can be misogynist towards women towards.
Yeah, that's not why it was written. That's not any context. That doesn't make. It's not. Can
you give me the context for you said I was missing context, so give me the context now.
This is how I read the Old Testament, so therefore appealing to my emotion.
Can you give me the context? You said I was missing, please.
Yeah, the context is that it was God's plan to reconcile with man and to bring his Jesus to the earth. So that
what's the context for capturing women, sir?
It's called moral or divine.
What's the context for capturing women, sir?
You know what divine accommodation is?
Can you give me the context for capturing women, please?
Do you want to know what divine accommodation is? Because you need to understand.
You said I was missing context on this passage.
I'm telling you, you need to know what divine accommodation is before you.
You said I was missing context on the passage that described female captives. Now give me the context for capturing women, please.
The context for capturing women. It's part of God's plan. That's the context.
Yeah, that's why I think Satan is morally better than God, because Satan would never allow that.
Yeah, but you don't understand God's purpose and plan.
So what's the context?
From your perspective, it's going to look illogical because you're trying to play God and say like, oh, well, if I was God, I would have done it, or I would have for these certain people. Wait, let me ask you this: do you think that?
Wait, hold on. You're saying the context is. Hold on, just stop for a second, please. I'm saying that the context is that the Lord says when you go out to war against your enemies, blah, blah, blah.
That's not the context.
But you just said that the context is God's plan. How is that any different? How is me saying that when the Lord says to go out against your enemies and slaughter them and capture women, how is that any different from you saying that that's God's plan? We both have the same context here, it sounds like.
No, because you don't understand God's plan. I do at least understand the reason
but you
why.
do? You understand God's plan? You understand God's plan? You understand God's
I
plan?
can explain to you if you would like to.
Do you understand God's plan here?
Not fully, no, because I'm not God. If I would understand
so then
God's
you don't know the
plan, I would be
context
God.
either. Then you don't know the context either. Then
if I would understand God's plan and purpose, that would make me God.
So then you don't know. So you said I was missing context, and I asked you for the context. Hold on.
It's very simple.
You said I was missing context, and when I asked you for the context, you gave me the same thing. You said I don't know.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay, then what's the context? Tell me.
I told you. I said it's
God's plan, which you don't know.
I said the Old Testament. The reason for
what is the context for capturing women? What is the context for capturing women?
You know this.
What is the context for capturing women?
In the New Testament, that shows that Satan is better than God.
Fuck out of here. He came up here and said, "You're missing the context regarding the passage of capturing females." And I said, "Okay, give me the context." He said, "The context is it's God's plan, which I don't know." Wait, you don't know God's plan, which means you don't know the context. We both don't know the context here. You just came up here to tell me that you also as well don't know the context. Don't come up here and waste my time, guys. I got to get going. I appreciate you all being here. Thanks for watching. If you guys want to watch the full live stream, go subscribe to my YouTube. The link is in the bio. And if you were a guest on here today and you want to see our conversation, and you want to go back and see where you were wrong and where I was right, subscribe to the YouTube. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs on YouTube. I'm at like almost 800 subs. And if you want to watch the full live stream, go back there. I'm going to post it as soon as I end this live stream. I don't know if Joel is still live, guys, but let's go raid Joel. Everybody go over to Joel Reads Bible. Joel Reads Bible. It's a little orange profile picture. And go in there and say Skits Raid. Skits and Bits Raid on Joel Reads Bible right now. Love you guys. I'll be seeing you guys again soon. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate all of you for the gifts. Thank you, guys. Joel reads Bible, guys. Skits raid.